From the Mile High City to the San Fernando Valley, the Houston Astros rocked a road trip that flipped the script on 2013 and defied the skeptics in the process, as Bo Porter's team is starting to turn promise into payoff. Tonight, a triumphant return to Minute Maid with a new challenge. Bring the home field advantage back to Houston. Live from Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas, Comcast Sportsnet brings you Houston Astros baseball. Tonight, the Astros are back home, opening a 3-game homestand against the Baltimore Orioles. Good evening, everybody. From Minute Maid, Bill Brown, Alan Ashby, Jeff Blum, a threesome back together for 3 games. We hated to break up the combination with you guys having a 6-0 road trip, Ash.
Well, Brownie, we're just trying to put the heat on you, make sure you realize that wins are a mandate, and what a road trip it was.
Yeah, and Blummer, you guys did have some fun watching that clutch hitting along the way, too.
Yeah, we did have a lot of fun watching this ball club play. They were doing all the things right. Starting pitching was doing its job. Timely hitting. Defense was doing well. So, yeah, we're trying to bring that act home.
All right, well, you mentioned starting pitching. That's where we're going to start because it was a solid performance night after night, Ash.
It does start with starting pitching, and Eric Bedard got the streak going, this in Colorado. He was pretty sharp. It wasn't one of his very best. I think the last one was Lucas Harrell, also pretty good in this ball game, but enough to be able to get a second straight win for the ball club. Dallas Keuchel, also not terrific numbers, but sharp. Bud Norris was absolutely on the money against the Angels, and Jordan Lyles has been terrific now in 3 or 4 starts in a row. And then it comes back to Eric Bedard, who was just absolutely dynamite yesterday, pitching quickly and providing a chance for that 6th straight win.
They didn't need a whole lot of hitting. They got some timely hitting.
Yeah, we saw that last night in the Angel game. Only 3 hits to win that ball game, but I think throughout the course of this road trip, it was the timely hitting that they got. J.D. Martinez did a great job getting 2 out RBIs. When a couple guys maybe faltered, Carlos Corcoran struck out in a big situation, but J.D. picked him up. And this guy right here, the big guy, Chris Carter, when he makes contact, the ball usually goes out of the ballpark, and 3 times over this road trip he did it. 2 were for go-ahead home runs, and 1 was to tie it up, and some really good pitching matchups against Jerome Williams in the Angel series.
Coming up from Minute Maid Park, as the Astros are back home on a warm, steamy night, they will pay tribute to some firefighters tonight, and they'll find out if they can get their home record revved up the way they did on that 6-0 road trip. Julia Morales has more in a moment.
On the Baltimore Orioles in a 3-game set, and it all starts tonight. Houston coming in after that 2-1 win over the Angels to complete the 4-game sweep. Eric Bedard and Brandon Barnes were the stars of the game. Barnes with the go-ahead sac fly and then the great play made out in center field to seal the Astros' lead there as they went on to get the win. And he's been solid defensively and put in that starting center field job thanks to some timely hitting. He's also enjoyed sweeping that team he grew up watching in Anaheim. But Barnes' spot in center is not set in stone. The outfield has changed often this year. It'll change again when Justin Maxwell returns. He begins a rehab assignment with the Corpus Christi Hooks today, and Bo Porter said that when he's ready to return, Barnes and Jimmy Paredes will compete out in right field for some playing time. Now the Astros playing real well on the road as they got their first road sweep of 6 games or more since 1999. But check it out this season. The home and road splits are a little different. Much better on the road, 12-16 the record. You see the team average there, 255 compared to 237, and the team ERA dropping. We've been talking a lot about the starting pitcher and how much better they've been as of late, but the team hopes to continue what they've been doing here at Minute Maid Park, and they're coming off a little bit of sleep as the team got in about 6 o'clock this morning, got home about 6 o'clock this morning. Meanwhile, their opponents, the Baltimore Orioles, had the day off, so they are well rested. That's how baseball goes, right? The game is coming up, and Lucas Harrell will try to take on the Orioles. Chris Davis, Adam Jones. Stay with us. It's all coming up next.
Of course, the air conditioning is on, and of course, the Astros and Orioles are meeting for the first time this year. It's been a true home field advantage series down through the years. The Astros have won all 3 games played here, and Baltimore's won all 6 games played there. And the Orioles bring the second best attack in terms of runs scored in the American League. And Chris Davis has been on fire, Jeff Blum.
Yeah, these guys are good. He's putting up astronomical numbers, 20 home runs, 52 RBIs. But first 5, 6 through that lineup, Hardy's not a weakness. His batting average is down, but he's still got 12 home runs, 34 RBIs on the year. So these guys are getting it done.
And Ash, this club with Davis leading the way and Machado really blossoming at third base and Jones forming quite a triumvirate there. A very strong ball club this year. 32-25, not a great record, but after finishing 93 and 69, big things are expected of the Birds.
They are potentially a great offense, though. Nick Markakis also in right field, a terrific hitter and defensive player. Their outfield can go get it. They're as solid as they come defensively in the outfield. You mentioned J.J. Hardy. He can play that steady shortstop, really making the plays. Manny Machado has been the big difference maker for this club.
Well, we check the lineup for Buck Showalter's Birds. He's in his 4th year as their skipper. It's Nate McLeod in left field, Manny Machado at third base, Nick Markakis in right field, Adam Jones in center, Chris Davis at first, the American League Player of the Week this past week. Matt Wieters, the catcher, J.J. Hardy at shortstop. Ryan Flaherty's the second baseman tonight, and it's Danny Valencia at designated hitter.
The Astros are going to start off the homestand with Lucas Harrell on the mound. Had an interesting outing last time he was out there against the Colorado Rockies in Coors Field. Fell behind 3-0 in the first 3 innings on 4 errors, but continued to keep his ball club in the game and allowed them to come back and win with the 6-run six. But it was a rough May for Lucas Harrell, going 1-4. He looks to change all that here, starting at home at Minute Maid Park.
Defensively for the Astros, behind Lucas Harrell tonight, it'll be Jason Castro behind the dish. Around the infield, right to left, Chris Carter, Jose Altuve, Marwin Gonzalez back at it, and Matt Dominguez in the outfield. Brandon Barnes in center, flanked by Jimmy Paredes in right, and J.D. Martinez in left.
Astros back at Minute Maid Park, where they won 9 and lost 21. After sweeping that 6-game road trip, they have won 11 of their last 18 now. They allowed only 16 runs in winning those last 6 games. So Bull Porter's club now with 21 wins, 37 losses, looking to continue that momentum that they have established on that last trip. And they'll be going to Baltimore, of course, later on this season, just 3 games in each city. Buck Showalter's Birds are right in the thick of things. They're 2.5 games out, and they're tied with the Yankees behind Boston in the AL East in his 15th year as a major league manager of the Yankees. He played for them in the minor leagues, then became a manager with their club. He managed Arizona and Texas. 2-time American League Manager of the Year. They had the day off yesterday after a 4-1 homestand. And now, as Lucas Harrell goes to work, it's Nate McLeod, the former Pittsburgh Pirate outfielder, and also he played for the Atlanta Braves. He was with Pittsburgh and Baltimore last year, and there's ball 1. McLeod begins the night at .297. He has 4 homers. He's driven in a dozen runs. Has a .372 on base average. That's a liner, and it's caught by Altuve.
Nate McLeod is one of the guys who has been a big turnaround kind of guy for the Orioles. His career started out very well as a Pirate, and then he had his struggles, but he has been reborn here with the O's.
Well, it's one thing fans here in Houston, Ash, have been looking forward to this season. Seeing some of the new stars in the American League. They might have seen Manny Machado a few times on television last year, but now here he is, .327, 5 homers, 30 runs batted in, 20 years old. One of the strong young talents in Major League Baseball. Not
one-dimensional. He plays a great third base. The Orioles people just rave about what he's done.
He takes there, and it's a 1-ball-1-strike count. And Blummer, he is essentially a shortstop playing third, and that gives him that tremendous range.
Yeah, you got to be a true talent to come up as a shortstop and move to third base. My opinion's a little biased, but he's doing a great job. And J.J. Hardy won the Gold Glove last year at short, so having him at third base is going to be a good thing for this Oriole defense.
Foul pocket Carter, 2 outs for Harrell. Harrell showed some resilience in that last game you guys did for him in Colorado. He went 5 2/3. He gave up 3 earned runs. There were 3 errors in 1 inning, and he gave up just 1 unearned run in that frame.
That was truly impressive. I think Ash and I were both in shock that he was able to keep it together and get through that inning alone.
That was one of those ball games that we were kind of laughing at because it was that ugly early on, and yet the Rockies left a bunch of runners on base, and you oftentimes will see a game like that turn and go the other direction, and that's exactly what happened.
Strike 1 to Nick Markakis. He's made 7 opening day starts in right field for this club. Nick, 29 years old, as Ash mentioned, a very talented player. First round pick in 03. He taps to second. Altuve over to Carter. It's a 1-2-3 first for Lucas Harrell, and the Astros are back home hosting Zeros after a 7-pitch first. We check the starting lineup for Bo Porter's club. Brandon Barnes leads it off in center field. Jose Altuve at second base. Jason Castro catcher. J.D. Martinez left field. Carlos Pena DH. Chris Carter first base. Jimmy Paredes right field. Matt Dominguez third base. Marwin Gonzalez shortstop.
Chris Tillman, right-hander on the hill for the Orioles. 6'5", listed at 210, maybe a bit bigger than that right now. Pitching well, 4-2, 426 the earning. He's allowed a little bit more in terms of hits than innings pitched on the year. And a guy who really doesn't seem to be impacted one way or the other, right-handers or left-handers against him.
Backing up Chris Tillman in the outfield. Nate McLaughlin left. Adam Jones in center. Nick Markakis in right field. Manny Machado at third base. J.J. Hardy at short. Ryan Flaherty at second base. Chris Davis at first base. Matt Wieters behind the plate.
And Tillman, who last year was 9-3 with Baltimore and about a half season with the big league club, spent the other half at AAA Norfolk. Throws the first one, and it's wide to Brandon Barnes. There's ball one. Barnes getting this start and this opportunity to be the center fielder and leadoff man. Begins the night at 277, 2 homers, 13 driven in. He squares around and takes that one high, and it's a 2-ball, no strike count on Brandon, who on the road trip was 5 for 25 for a 200 average, driving in 3. Machado plays him even with the bag at third.
When Brandon Barnes was aggressive on this trip, he was quite effective. There were times it felt like he was being maybe a little cautious, maybe trying to draw walks as that leadoff man now.
I think you're exactly right. I think putting him in that leadoff spot maybe a little uncharacteristic, trying to do a little bit more for the team than he's normal and had to adjust himself. But when he's aggressive, he can put good swings on the ball.
3-1 for Tillman. Tillman's walked 22 and 63 in a third innings. Lifetime record in the majors of 20 wins and 20 losses. That's in the air, and that'll sail back into the seats. 3 balls, 2 strikes. The Astros players wearing those special patches on their uniforms for this 3-game homestand, commemorating the fallen firefighters. Houston Fire Department commemorated there. Special pregame ceremonies honored them. Houston Fire Department Honor Guard and Houston Pipe and Drum Band on the field. There's a shot on the ground and into center field. Brandon Barnes leads off for the sharp single.
Nothing but fastballs to deal with, and he got a couple to swing at through the heart of the plate, and this one he lays the wood too.
Didn't try to do too much. 3-2 count. Usually guys will try and unload a little bit, but realizing he's at the top of the order and he needs to set up these guys in the 3-4 holes that have been so hot for the Astros, just punches it up the middle.
Base runners are warned. With Wieters, one of the top throwing catchers around. He's thrown out 50% this year.
It's been a combined effort too. The pitchers put on quite a concerted effort, they say, early on spring training time, trying to be quick to the plate and help shut down that running game, and there has been very little in terms of the running going on.
Jose Altuve looks at strike one. As you saw, he slipped 4 points below 300, but he's on a 6-game hitting streak. Not the kind of hitting streak a hitter really would choose to have, because he has 6 hits during the 6 games. It's better than no streak, though. At least it means he's consistently getting on base, but the average has dropped off a little bit. I think, Blummer, that is not at all unusual for a player like Jose Altuve, who puts an awful lot of balls in play. He's going to ride a tide, go up and down with that batting average, isn't he?
He is, and it's kind of funny to think that we're actually talking about him being under 300 and that being an issue, but Jose Altuve is a proven hitter. And like you said, he's going to find that hot streak, and he's going to ride it out as long as he can. And his streaks are actually going to be, I think, a little bit more extended because he does such a good job of going the other way.
Tell you what good hitters do, in my opinion, is they do get 1 hit a game when they're struggling. Where some guys will take a 2 for 20, 3 for 35, and that is a real struggle. But for Altuve, it's just that 1 hit a game.
There's a back foul. It's no balls, 2 strikes to Jose. Now, this Baltimore pitching staff with a 4.50 ERA, 13th best in the American League, is not the strong point of the club. Tillman, though, with 4 wins, 2 losses, a 4.26 ERA, has kept his club in a lot of games this year. And on the road, he's 3-0 with a 2.59. Up the middle, shortstop, Hardy. There's the toss. And from the turn. Ryan Flaherty, the middleman, on a 6-4-3 twin killing.
Chris Tillman, that average against on the curveball, just 136. So he's got a very good breaking ball. Get a lot of swings and misses on that pitch. We've also seen that he's quite willing to pump fastballs.
With 2 outs, Jason Castro came from a family of firefighters. His father, firefighter, also his grandfather and a brother. 276, 7 homers, 17 runs batted in for Jason. He takes a look at ball 1, and Jason on the road trip 4 for 19, a 211 batting average. So he is very empathetic with what those families have been going through with the loss of those firefighters here in the Houston area.
Brownie, I have a daughter who's a firefighter, and it's just absolutely devastating to see those young faces up on the board who lost their lives and the families behind them. And it's just it's appalling to think that a life can be taken while trying to serve others like that.
They were trying to rescue people that they thought were in the burning building, and the roof collapsed on them. Just a big tragedy in this Houston area, and the whole city has been grieving for them. Where does your daughter live, Ash?
In the Utah area, down toward Provo a bit.
3 balls and a strike.
South Jordan area is where she's a firefighter, and yeah, you know, they're kids of families, and they go out, and it's a dangerous job, but they feel like they can get it done every day.
Castro draws a 2-out walk. Here's part of the pregame ceremony on the field here at Minute Maid Park. J.D. Martinez, the batter. And that was a little high. Ball 1 to J.D. 271 for J.D. 5 homers, 21 runs batted in. Some very big hits lately. And a 360 average on the last road trip, going 9 for 25 with 3 runs batted in. Local and national firefighters can receive free tickets for this series for them and their families at the Minute Maid Park box office with their firefighter ID. 1 ball, 1 strike to J.D. His 6-game hitting streak came to an end last night, but it was a happy story as you guys had the long flight back after the 2-1 win over the Angels.
Makes the dreams that finally do come when you get to sleep rather pleasant for the guys, I'm sure.
That's true. And it was a rarity tonight, and certainly called for us. Bo Porter said, just come in at 4 o'clock for a 7-10 game. We're not hitting on the field. Get some rest. We'll be back to our pregame routines tomorrow.
Got to do that every once in a while. You got to throw these guys a bone. Even though they're one of the youngest ball clubs in the major leagues, you got to let those kids rest a little bit.
Bouncer, and whoa, here's Tillman scrambling for it. He finds a handle and he gets him. After turning his back on that one, he takes a 1-3 play to end the first inning with no runs, a hit, and a man left, no score. Draft party this Thursday, June 6th, following the 110 game against the Orioles. All fans with a ticket are invited to watch the 2013 draft live on the big screen and hear exclusive interviews from Astros general manager Jeff Luhnow, who's about to join us, Astros scouts, and more. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com to get your tickets now. Great time of year, Jeff, with the convergence of baseball at all these different levels, high school, college, and, of course, professional baseball. And you just can't get enough baseball this time of year, can you?
It's great. I mean, the College World Series is getting underway soon, and most of the high school seasons are done. The draft is happening on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And, you know, the Astros just came off a really nice road trip.
Absolutely. And Enos Cabell, by the way, came back with a 6-0 record.
Yeah, I told him I might have to send him on the next road trip.
I told him he was definitely going to be on every road trip this year. So, Enos, get ready.
Well, certainly a lot of anticipation about the draft Thursday, and there's a lot of hard work that's going into that right now. Tell us what's going on right now with the scouts.
Well, we have a room filled with scouts. They're talking about approximately 800 plus players, looking at video, talking about scouting reports, trying to put them in order. They've been doing it for the last couple days. We have 4 workouts across the country. Our last one was here at Minute Maid on Saturday. And just piecing together all the information, getting ready for the big day. Thursday night we'll make 2 picks, and then Friday there'll be a full day of drafting, and then another day on Saturday. And when it's all said and done, we'll have 40 new drafted players.
The word sequestration is the word I heard coming out of that meeting. Is that right?
Well, that sounds about right. We do let them out for lunch and you know, at night to go sleep in the hotel, but. You know, this is really the culmination of so much work, and they're so energized. It's their opportunity to talk about their players, and you know, they hope to get some players, and they're not all going to get the players they want, but it's kind of a little bit of an opportunity for them to market these guys and talk about how good they are.
Foul ball by Jones, still 1-2 on Adam. You come from a scouting background, Jeff, and the scouts are the lifeblood of any organization. I've never thought they've gotten enough credit for what they do.
I think that's right. These guys are out there 12 months a year, almost every single day, driving around their car, going to 1 or 2 games a day. And really, it's a tough job. They spend a lot of time away from their families, but they love the game of baseball, and they love finding players that make it to the big leagues. And when that happens, when you're out there and you get to know a player when he's a junior in high school, and you scout him and you get him drafted and you watch him go through the minor leagues and make it to the big leagues, there's really nothing more rewarding than that. And our scouts live for that, and it's really an unbelievable experience when it happens.
Jeff, we often hear about first rounders and who a team is going to pick in that first round. Can you guys actually sit back and have a board that is loaded with guys that you anticipate being able to select in the 2nd through the 10th rounds, for example?
Well, you do, and typically our 2nd pick is going to be the 40th pick of the draft, and so we'll put our board together in order. And probably, you know, 30 boards, everybody sees the players a little bit differently. You know, the player that we have ranked number 25 will probably be the guy that we get at 40, because we don't have the same view of all the players as the rest of the club. So it's pretty exciting. You know, typically, you know, that 2nd pick is a big leaguer as well. There's a real good opportunity to get somebody there. You know, I think about one of my first drafts. I had a pick right around 40, and it turned out to be Lance Lynn for the Cardinals, and you know, we were rolling the dice, and geez, he's been a pretty good player so far.
I guess so. One of the most successful pitchers in baseball right now.
How much has your methodology changed since your Cardinal days?
It's evolved. Every year we refine it and try and improve it. And really, it all starts with the area scout, the guy that gets to know the players and watches them over the course of 2-3 years. And you have to have good area scouts. You have to trust their judgment. And then you combine whatever information you have, medical information, analytical information from their performance, psychological profile information, all this other stuff that goes into it. And we really feel like our process is as good as it can get right now.
When you get a look at guys that you've selected in high rounds in recent years, I would imagine, based on what's happened so far this year, you have to be awfully pleased. And have you been surprised in any way by these guys?
No, these guys were taken at the top of the draft because they're legitimate star caliber players. And I think, you know, when everybody saw Springer when he was in college and knew that he had the potential to be the type of player that he's quickly becoming, you know, Correa's handling full season baseball just fine. DeShields is having a good year. So it's exciting. Fultonevich, another good player. You know, when you have that kind of success among your first round picks, it really bodes well for the future of the organization. And if we can just follow that up with another good draft this year, I think we'll be in really good shape.
Good pitch there, and here's the big slugger in the American League, Chris Davis with 20 homers. It's a 1-1 count, 357. Gaudy numbers for Chris Davis here in May.
I think most people in baseball also talk about you need pitching. You've got to have pitching. Maybe you can trade pitching for position players down the line, whatever it may be. But do all the arm injuries concern you as you're drafting guys?
No question about it. It's something that you have to be concerned about, but at the same time, everybody's struggling to get pitching, especially elite pitching. So somewhere along the line, you have to take a gamble, whether it's in the draft or you got to trade for pitching or you have to sign free agent pitchers. Either way, you're taking a big gamble because you need 5 starters. You probably need 8 or 9 starters through the course of the year. And obviously, when you become a playoff team, you need to have those 1 or 2 guys that you can rely on to go up against the top 1 or 2 guys in the other teams. And without that, you can't win a World Series.
Saw Bud Norris. He came up through the ranks after being drafted by the Astros. And obviously, it seems to be a movement that more and more organizations want those homegrown players and they want to hang on to them, Jeff.
It is, because you have 6 years of cost control once they get to the big leagues, and you don't have to compete with other clubs in the free agent market. So it's a real important part.
Broken bat, looping single to right, and that's the kind of year Davis is having. Even his broken bats are producing hits.
Well, he's gone from that guy that was always the power threat to the guy that now is not only a great power threat, but a terrific hitter to go with it.
Matt Wieters coming up next.
A guy you didn't draft, Jonathan Singleton, has stepped back in and looks like he's trying to say, I'm ready to move along in this system.
Well, we're having some fun with it. He went to Quad Cities and had a good stint there, and he's in Corpus Christi tonight in the lineup. Justin Maxwell's down there as well. So it's going to be fun for Springer to play with those 2 guys. And, we just hope he continues to progress, because he's a guy that, quite honestly, with a good year, could end up here by the end of this summer.
And there you see some progress. Carlos Correa. Recent games have been very good to him. And the numbers for 6 games at Quad Cities for Jonathan, who's moved up, as you said. So that's a star-studded lineup for the Hooks tonight, as you mentioned.
I think the draft for Major League Baseball is a bit different than what the NFL, for example, might go through, where guys are really tried and tested in college football. Do you get giddy, though, as you get that chance to get in and get your hands dirty and bring some guys into your organization?
No question about it. I really consider it kind of like the holiday season. You have all these new presidents, and you're dying to unwrap them and see, play with them. And they go out into usually the short season clubs, and a couple will make it to full season clubs this summer. And it's really fun to watch them progress. And last year, all the draft picks we brought in really gave a shot in the arm to our clubs. Lancaster won a championship. Tri-Cities had their best season ever.
That's certainly high, but foul.
Yeah, that's some of the power this Baltimore Orioles club has. How much do you concern yourself with agents when you talk about, say, an appella that a lot of people have at the top of the list this year? Does an agent potentially drive you away?
No, we really focus on the player, because a lot of us like to say, we're signing the player, not the advisor, not the agent. And so if you've got the player that you really want, the advisors typically have the best interest of the player at heart. And, if that's to be on your club and be drafted by your club, they'll make it happen.
Lucas Harrell gets a punch out on Wieters for out number 2. Well, Lucas has been battling. He certainly did that last start, Jeff. And looks like he has pretty good stuff tonight.
He does. It's good to see him comfortable here early in the game. I think that bodes well. We need a good outing from him today, and I think he's going to get us one.
J.J. Hardy coming up next. Hardy has 12 homers, 34 runs batted in. Let's take the example of a George Springer who played at the University of Connecticut. And that's where a lot of the scouting is really important, isn't it? With a player from the Northeast who does not have the length of season of a player in another warmer climate.
Absolutely true, and it's especially true of the high school players, because their seasons are so short in the cold weather regions. But more and more, a lot of the players are playing year-round, so you get a chance to evaluate them during the summer and the fall. And a lot of the work that the scouts do is during those months. And by the time the spring scouting season starts, we've got a pretty good feel for who the guys are that we need to bear down on, and they do a good job of it.
You've kept your cards pretty tight, but a couple of names, pitchers at the top of a lot of people's lists. Mark Appel from out west, and Jonathan Gray. Can you give us just kind of quickly some of the pluses these two guys bring?
Well, we're not allowed to talk about the players in the draft before the draft. Obviously, afterwards, I'll tell you everything I liked about him. But I will say this is a good draft class. There's some good arms. There's some good bats. There's some high school players that we really like. There's college players we really like. And, for us, it's a matter of choosing the player that we believe is going to have the biggest impact for the Houston Astros going forward, and that may or may not match up with the player that other organizations think would be right for them. So, that's really what we're doing right now. The choices are all great. You're nitpicking between them because they're all potential big league impact players.
From what we're reading, Jeff, and general impression that this draft is well stocked with high school catchers and left-handed pitchers. Do you consider the Astros to be pretty well stocked with catching talent right now?
We have definitely added to our catching talent by bringing in Perez and Stassi last year during the offseason. We got two guys that we really like. We've got some guys internally. And, Corcoran really helped our depth by becoming the player that he's become at the big league level. You could see him, being a backup here for a long time to come.
Good point. And with the emergence of Castro now, a healthy Castro this year, that is looking like a very good situation for years to come.
Yeah, I would simply say you've got one of the healthiest starter backup combinations, I think, in all of Major League Baseball in terms of the catchers.
I agree. And, I got spoiled in St. Louis with Matheny and then Yadi Molina, two guys that defensively are about as good as it gets. But I'm really pleased if you can have good defensive catchers, a nice tandem where you can give a guy a couple days off and they can produce offensively, especially the way these two have produced this year. I think that's going to be a big boost for us.
What's exciting to a lot of us is that we'll take an area scout who's got his guys. Say he's a Houston area scout. Boy, he wants you to draft his guys. They're his fellas, And then you've got a scout watching the talent in Georgia. He wants you to take it. It's got to be pretty interesting in that room.
It is. And Mike Elias, our scouting director, has some tough decisions to make. But, he's not there to make the scouts happy. My advice to him is when you leave the room after the draft is over, make sure everybody is equally unhappy. And you'll have done a good job.
But as you put them together, and you pointed this out yesterday in the press conference, now the dynamics change. They're all in one room. They're all considering these players. The guy from Houston hasn't seen the Georgia guys, so now he gets his first look at them, right? It's
true. And, we really believe in having the area scouts here for the entire draft. It's really an important part of the process because they learn a lot and they can contribute a lot. It starts to get rapid fire very quickly after the first round, and we need these guys to be on top of it and make sure that, we don't forget about players that they really want us to draft, and, sometimes make that extra phone call to the player to make sure that he's signable in the round that we're going to take him.
Ground ball to Altuve. On over to first. Can you spend another half inning with us?
I sure can.
We'll be back with Jeff Luno in a scoreless game. Jeff Blum rejoins us. Jeff Luno is here talking about the upcoming draft. And Jeff Luno, Mike Elias and company about to go shopping on Thursday with a very nice purse full of money to spend on prospects. And this is where it gets really intriguing, right?
Well, it does. You know, by having the poorest record in Major League Baseball last year, we have the largest pool of money to spend in the draft, and that's part of the theory behind competitive balance. So, you know, those numbers at each pick are just guidelines. They're not, you know, hard slots. And so really what we consider is the entire aggregate pool, our picks, and how do we get the most value out of the dollars that we spend. But it's going to be a big investment. I mean, it's one of those are real dollars that we're going to end up writing checks for. And we need to make sure that we get a lot of Major League value coming out of that draft.
Where does the money come from to put into that pool? Is that Astro money, or is that from the league, or
it's
luxury taxes?
It's Astro money.
Okay.
And you know, we talk about a lot has been discussed about our payroll this year. Well, you know, we're going to be investing close to $20 million between the draft and our international spending. And that's a significant amount of investment that the Astros are making in the future.
Now, how creative can you get with that number 1 pick, number 2 pick, as far as the numbers and contract type situations?
Well, let's say you were available in the draft, and we agreed to pay you $1 for that first pick. Then the whole rest of our pool would be available for the rest of the draft. But,
yep.
You know, it typically goes. The first player you take is the one you're going to invest the most in. But you know, you certainly don't have to follow any of the guidelines. The guidelines were there basically to come up with the total aggregate amount. There's no penalties for going over or under any specific pick. There are penalties if you go over your aggregate pool, you get taxed. And then if you go over 15% or more, then you lose your pick for next year. And that's something that nobody wants to do, of course.
And how are they handling? I know that a couple guys, I remember I played with a guy named Sean Burrows, who, you know, they get big league contracts as a first-round pick. Are they still doing things like that?
No, that was eliminated as part of the new collective bargaining agreement. So everybody is on the same footing there. You really just negotiate, you know, after the player's selected, you negotiate a signing bonus, and then they become a minor league player, and not until they get added to the 40-man roster, which could be as quick as a year, as we saw in the case of Kevin Gausman from LSU, or it could be, you know, 6 years. If not, they become minor league free agents.
Peña's hit by the pitch to lead it off here, and Carlos is the third Astro base runner against Tillman.
Oh, yeah. Of course it did. That's why you wear those baggy bottom pants right there. You get that extra clip. Don't have to pay the price for it. Painless on base percentage right there.
That is not going to hurt a whole lot. He's aboard for Chris Carter, who's hit those meaningful home runs on the road trip and brings a 6-game hitting streak into this game. 12 bombs for Chris this year. And there's strike one. You got to be really pleased with the way Chris is rounding into form, Jeff.
I really am. We knew he was going to have some power. I mean, both of those last home runs really won those games for us, and they're critical. He seems to be comfortable hitting home runs on the road, and you know, I know it's a matter of time before he's peppering that community leaders board up there here at home. And you know, if he can get his average up to about the 250 mark, you know, that power is going to play. He's going to win a lot of ball games for us.
Got the home runs you're looking at. Jerome Williams is pitching a great game. We talked about just one mistake changing that game for him, and that was the one Chris Carter hit to go ahead. And earlier in Colorado, the home run he hit there to start that 6-run rally when Lucas Harrell was pitching was also a go-ahead home run. So he's not connecting as often as you'd like, but when he does, they seem to be big hits.
It just looks like such an easy swing, too.
Well, I caught him in the clubhouse, and he had a couple bats lying around, and me being a former hitter, you know, you've got to go around and see what he's swinging. And I went down there and I grabbed one of his bats, and it is one of the heaviest pieces of lumber I've ever seen in my life. He handed me one that was 35 inches long, 34 ounces. So he's a big man swinging a big stick.
And now here's the advance of Peña. The throw from Wieters not in time. So Carlos was ready to move on that one in the dirt. And that could be a good play as he gets to second with nobody out and a 3-1 count.
Good read. Mentioned that Wieters is throwing about 50% of the base stealers out, so why not take advantage of the ball in the dirt on that breaking ball right there? Good read by Carlos.
he gets into scoring position, and Carter's driven in runs in 6 of his last 8.
You guys are starting a new ball club, basically, bringing in a whole bunch of new management, front office, and you guys have your data analysis guys. Is there anybody in this draft who is fitting into that Astro mold, or somebody you could see turning into that Houston Astro that you guys are trying to develop as an organization?
Well, I think there's quite a few, and we want to have a balance. We really look at the draft and our whole minor league system as a portfolio. You want to make some speculative, high risk, high return investments, and those tend to be pitchers and high school players. You also want to have enough bonds in your portfolio to make sure that you get a return out of them. So some of the more advanced college players, for example, that are fairly safe bets to make it to the big leagues. And you want to balance across positions and so forth. But there's no one profile that we look for as an Astro profile.
Strikeout, that's number 1 for Tillman, and Paredes will come up next. Well, last year, by all acclaim, the Astros had a great draft. They were able to negotiate with Carlos Correa, giving more money to sign the subsequent picks. And by everything we've read, just a fantastic draft. The numbers are there for all these players who were taken high. You got some good college talent after taking Correa, and certainly the young pitcher McCullers. That was a tremendous mix. Are you looking to do that again this year, or is that that's something that is only going to happen once, do you think?
I think if we could replicate the output of that draft, we'd be happy. To get a guy like Nolan Fontana, top of the 2nd round, to be able to add that. So he's a fairly safe college player who we think is going to move very fast, and he already is moving fast. But to get a Lance McCullers, a guy who has tremendous upside as a starter in the big leagues, that was great.
Good play there by Flaherty to get Paredes, and Pena takes 3rd. So those results look fantastic already early, and it sometimes takes a little bit longer than that.
Well, and the guys we took later in the draft too, Andrew Applin and Preston Tucker, Brady Rogers. I mean, our entire draft at this point, Sclafani, who's hitting like 380 in the Cal League. These are guys that didn't get huge bonuses. They weren't big names on draft day, but we did our homework on them. Our scouts did our homework, and we got great players and really added to the depth of our system.
Yeah, that's the other important point, is that we focus so much on the top pick. There's so many gems to be mined below that, and you get a 10th rounder every now and then who will just be a spectacular player.
Well, beyond the 10th round, one of the success stories of the drafts in St. Louis that I was involved in is the number of players that were selected, even after the 10th round. Guys like Jaime Garcia and Matt Carpenter and Matt Adams, and the list goes on. Guys that are in the big leagues today that were selected in the 20th round, 30th round, etc. If you can get that value out of the draft, it can put you really on a winning course pretty quickly.
Dominguez is driven in 29. He has a shot at a 2-out RBI to give the Astros the lead here in the 2nd. He grounds that one foul.
You say the recent history of the minor leagues is pretty good. You guys are doing a great job this year procuring that winning attitude with these guys, but I think that is a credit to what you were saying about the draft up and down the list. No matter if it's a 1st round pick down to the 30th round, those guys all coming together and producing. But I like how some of those guys maybe are a little ticked off that they got drafted a little bit lower, but they're still getting the opportunity to go out there and prove themselves. I think it's good to see.
Well, we tell them all, once you're in the Astros organization, it doesn't matter where you were drafted. What matters is what you do from that point going forward. And a lot of these guys are senior signs, not high expectations, but they go out there and they perform, and there's a good chance they're going to make it to the big leagues, and that's what really matters.
Drive to center field. Jones way back. Jones all the way back and makes a retreating catch right in front of the hill in center field. That ball really hit a long way by Matt Dominguez. Jeff Leno, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to Thursday and beyond.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
No score after 2.
In the Astros, time for our Geico quote of the game. Feels good because we know we're coming from the floor. We scratched for it, sweat, tears, blood. We won, so it's really satisfying to come out victorious at the end. It's fun. It's really fun. That is from Carlos Pena, one of the leaders on this team, and it's really good to see all these guys having fun. They're very loose, and it's just showing that their hard work is paying off. And Carlos Pena is having a lot of fun because he's on a tear. Recently, he was 8 for 23 in this last road trip, 2 home runs and 4 ribbies. And he bought into what the Stros were doing from the beginnings, really enjoying his time here at this point of his career, guys.
He's been an important contributor, too, in a lot of different ways. One the count to Danny Valencia, hitting 250, 2 homers. He's driven in 6. And he puts one in the air to right field. Jimmy Paredes back to the warning track, and that one is an opposite field home run. Valencia's 3rd of the season, and it's 1-0 Baltimore. Orioles DHs were hitting only 179 coming into this game. That's the lowest by any American League club, but Valencia makes it 1-0.
When I start hearing about scratching and tears and blood and all that sort of thing, it sounds kind of dangerous and maybe not that much fun, but it has seemed to be a lot of fun for the club. Obviously, Danny Valencia puts a little damper on that.
Nate McLeod follows. Looks at ball 1. The Birds lead the American League in homers. That's their 82nd.
Well, considering what happened early on in the first 40 games of this season, can't blame the Astros for trying to enjoy this 6-game run a little bit.
That's a good point. When can you remember a team doing what they have done, going 6-0 on a road trip after starting 15-37? Pretty amazing stuff.
It is truly amazing. I think the last time they did make that run, they were taking it out on me and the rest of my teammates in Montreal.
I'm not sure I recall a club in that 15-37 spot, let alone being able to turn it around. It was remarkable.
Yeah. Well, in 05, they started 15-30. But still, I don't think they went 6-0 on a road trip at that point. That is pretty remarkable stuff. 3 balls, no strikes.
So you're saying the year they went to the World Series, they started out 15-30?
Yeah.
That'd be interesting, huh?
Ooh. 3 balls and a strike.
That was what year? 05?
Yes.
No kidding.
It's not how you start, it's how you finish.
I recall it was a disappointing start, but that is really not good at all.
Right to the shortstop, and Gonzalez slings it over to first. 1 out.
I recall a reporter in town that year about mid-season saying, well, if they make it to the postseason this year, I'll sit up on a billboard at such and such street in town naked. And
really?
Yeah.
Did that happen?
I think at the mercy of the fans, he chose not to do it in the end.
Ball 1 to Manny Machado. Machado is going to be fun to watch here the next 10 or 15 years or so, Blummer.
Yes, he is. Good young talent. Thrust into that third base spot. Hasn't really shied away from it. Some of these young guys are a little egotistical in a way, saying, no, I'm a shortstop. I'm going to come up as a shortstop. I'm going to be your shortstop. I'm not going to play third base. But Manny Machado, realizing he had an opportunity to play at the big league level at third base, is taking full advantage of it. It's good to watch.
When you get shifted to third base from being a shortstop, there's the expectation that you're going to hit more for power on the ball club. And what he's done, 5 home runs, nice. But the 25 doubles, very impressive.
Yeah, sure is. And he has 80 hits.
I think that 25 doubles is a credit to his athleticism, too. Able to play short. He's a relatively tall guy, but he's not thick by any means, but he's got all the talent.
How about a little like Carlos Correa?
That's extra bases in the left field corner. Machado heads for second base here, and he has now 26 doubles to lead the American League.
Well, he's an impressive player, and you know, you talk to the Orioles people, he might be the first name that comes up as the guy who has made the biggest difference for this club. Now, they play in a great hitter's ballpark in Baltimore, but these numbers are even better on the road for Manny Machado, so he's not a product of that yard in Baltimore.
about 100 points better almost in batting average, and 200 points better in his OPS.
I'm going to guess that by season's end, those numbers will balance a bit.
Markakis grounded out earlier. Strike one to Nick. Nick had a herniated disc in his neck in spring training. He's an outstanding player.
Guy that gets overlooked a lot, I think, by national media, but he can really play, and he's got a heck of a throwing arm in right field. Ooh, that's a good looking pitch.
Yep. 1-1.
I would challenge somebody to say where that one missed.
Back when Markakis was a first-round pick in 03, the Orioles were not very good. They could be a force for a few years now with the young talent that they've accumulated. Fly ball high to center field. Brandon Barnes back. Now he circles around behind it. And here's the late tag at second. Machado going back 2 outs.
Log on to csnhouston.com and click on In-Game Live to enhance your Astros experience via computer, smartphone, or tablet. Get in-depth stats and join the social buzz. In-Game Live only on csnhouston.com.
Adam Jones had made an outstanding catch on Matt Dominguez's deep drive in the second inning. Comes around for the second time. He struck out in the first. Just looking at these guys, and for many Houston fans, Ash, this is the first real time we've had an opportunity to see the Orioles in a 3-game series. Adam Jones, he's got that slender center fielder's build. Boy, he's looking very athletic. This one goes back out of play, and he also was a first-round pick, but it was a Seattle pick in 03.
Well, he is all of that you mentioned, Brownie. He's a gifted gazelle in center field, hits with power, can hit for average, a terrific talent. But you don't hear a lot about the Orioles players, and they're loaded offensively.
It's got to be tough to get noticed playing in a division with the Yankees and Red Sox. They're constantly being mentioned all over the place.
They right now have scored the most runs per game in all of Major League Baseball. They actually trail Boston by a couple of runs, but they've played one less game.
Good pitch there.
So they're an extremely effective offensive club, putting the runs on the board right now. And defensively, their outfield, as we mentioned, up top, maybe as good as any.
Adam Jones and Chris Tillman, tonight's starting pitcher, were part of a package for Eric Bedard when they were traded from Seattle to Baltimore in 08. Good stop there, and here's the advance. No throw. Castro took a look at third base, but Machado was streaking toward third, and he made it in without a throw.
Well, there's that gift, that instinctual gift that a lot of guys don't have. See the pitch in the dirt and take off, realizing that it's just simply going to be an awfully tough play for the catcher. Castro blocks it beautifully, but no chance when there's that fine reaction by Machado.
You got to be anticipating that play in order to get there on that.
A wild pitch. Gives the Orioles a runner at third with a 1-2 count on Jones.
Most players see pitch in dirt. Some players see pitch headed for dirt. And I think that's who Machado is.
Jones hit 32 homers. He drove in 82 last year, and he won a Gold Glove. Counts the first and on through into right field under the glove of Carter to make it 2-0 Baltimore. The ball skipped under Carter's mitt, and Jones reaches while Machado scores from third. It's an error.
Yeah, I think that ball played Chris Carter a little bit right there. But when you're playing first base, it's a unique opportunity compared to everybody else on the infield. Is if you have a chance to get in front of the ball, you get in front of the ball, knock it down, knowing the pitcher's going to be covering up, and you see kind of olayed that and got nowhere near it. Took a little bit of a funky hop, but if you have a chance as an infielder to get in front of the ball, do it. Keep that run from scoring from third.
As you say, Blummer, a unique chance because you don't have to hurry with a throw.
There is no hurry.
You can just knock it down and move to the bag or flip to your pitcher.
Chris Davis, strike one.
Now that's where you kind of man up, as the players will say, get in front of the baseball, take one for the team if you need to.
That's an ability to recognize the situation. 2 outs, man on third, ball hit to first. You got to make sure that guy doesn't score. Help your pitcher out. Lucas Harrell falling into some tough luck again.
Well, he got his ground ball, but it didn't turn out well for him. 1 ball, 1 strike to Davis. Davis is from Longview, Texas. Went to the University of Texas. And he was a draft choice of the Rangers in 06, 5th round pick, traded to Baltimore. Koji Uehara, along with Tommy Hunter, in the middle of the 2011 season. Very good deal for Baltimore. He had shown some power for the Rangers, but then last year he really broke out with a 33 home run year for the Birds.
Had a pretty decent run of first baseman go through the Texas Rangers organization. I know they traded for Adrian Gonzalez and then traded him away. Justin Smoke went through there. Now Mitch Moreland's there doing a pretty good job. I also think that was the first error of the season for Chris Carter at first base.
Okay. 2 balls, 2 strikes, his 3rd error overall.
He's actually done a nice job picking some throws out of the dirt. With that kind of instinctual play of being able to knock the ball down, as you say, with a man in scoring position, a couple of outs. It's one of those plays you've got to be able to react to and make.
Davis looks at it, and that's strike 3, ending the 3rd inning. And it's a 1-run inning on 1 hit. A 2-run inning, rather, on 2 hits with an error and a man left, and it's 2-0 Baltimore.
Astros 2-0. Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico viewers, listen up. Comcast Sportsnet covers the entire 5-state region, and we want your story ideas. Email us your ideas at regionalroundup@comcastsportsnet.com. Guys.
Thanks, Julia. Good to have you back for only 3 days. Hey, you and Blummer and Ash are just kind of making another stop on this long road trip, aren't you? It's really not a homestand of 3 games.
Just a pit stop. Gotta keep going.
Gotta get that laundry done, right?
Yeah, but I'll have time for it.
Now, Brownie, here's what I just heard. It's nice to have Julia back for only 3 days. Is that what? Well, you know, I'll drop it at that, I guess.
Let me amend that statement. Great to have you back, Julia.
Thanks, Brownie.
On further reflection, I misspoke. Marwin Gonzalez, 233, 3 homers, 11 runs batted in. But that's not the last time I liked it. And Marwin takes a strike. Now, I asked Marwin tonight, and you guys know this. You know, he sat out a few games with a hamstring strain. I said, well, you were ready to go a game before the trainers let you play, right? He said it was actually 2 games before they let me play, but that's okay. I understand. Because actually you consider all the games remaining to be played this year, and it makes no sense to rush a player back from an injury. A hamstring can go on for a long time, you know.
Well, even when you think you've got it healed, you can go out and try to burst on it, and all of a sudden it comes flaring back. Terry Poole, a great example, and a terrific Astro player through the years. pulled a hamstring, got it healed up, came back and played, pulled it again, and I believe he pulled it a third time that year, and it just destroyed an entire season.
I think it's smart going through Colorado, too, where a place the high altitude, your muscles have a tendency to get a little more dehydrated there. You don't want to chance it there. And they were playing such good ball that, you know, give them a couple extra days. It worked out pretty well.
Sure did. Ronnie Cedeno got a lot of playing time. Foul back. It was interesting hearing the thoughts of Jeff Luhnow about the upcoming draft. And, you know, that's the fun of being a fan, I think, in many ways, Jeff, is watching players develop in the years after they're drafted. Hey, I wonder if this 8th round pick's going to be anything. And he either is or he isn't, and you're either surprised or happy that you had it nailed all the way along, right?
Yeah, you do never know, but I know that Jeff Luhnow and the guys that he's got up working in his office are putting together some extensive work, extensive numbers, but it's good to see that they're actually going out and seeing these guys and witnessing what they do on the field as well as putting it together with the statistical stuff. But like you said, you never know until you get them in the system and start developing them and see how bad they want it.
You know what I also found really intriguing is Jeff talking about how maybe that 25th pick you have on your chart is a guy you could pick up at 40th because other teams may see players differently. And I think that's a big difference between the way the NFL and maybe NBA see players they're going to draft as opposed to what Major League Baseball has. A little bit more of a crapshoot here.
That's a good point.
It seems like all these drafts are just a real fluid type thing depending on what other teams do and how guys are slotted.
But I also wonder, do you go into a draft thinking, you know, in the 5th round, we've got a kid we're hoping to be able to get that we think is going to be just an absolutely terrific player.
Yeah. 2-0 to Brandon Barnes. He opened the Astros first with a single. It's a 3-0 count with a fastball up high. Curveball's been the most effective pitch so far statistically for Chris Tillman. Threw 98 pitches in his last start, but he only went 4 2/3 innings. That's in for a strike, making it 3-1 for Brandon. Brandon's walked 8 times. And as Jeff Luhnow told us, Justin Maxwell is beginning his minor league rehab assignment tonight for Corpus Christi. And he's going to need several games in the minor leagues before he comes back to the big league club. Usually it's a totally different type of thought process in the baseball draft compared to other teams' drafts in other sports, where you can fill an immediate need. You know, you can draft a first-round NFL and he's a starter for you, but that's not going to happen in baseball.
You know, I'll give you another example. I happen to play with a guy who turned out pretty good. Buddy Bell. 2,500 plus career hits. Terrific Gold Glove style third baseman. Buddy was a 16th round pick. I think things are a lot different today than they were then.
Yeah.
But that shows you how far off that drafting can go.
Jose Altuve grounded into a double play in the first inning. Well, consider Jose Altuve, of course, from Venezuela, not drafted. And what he has done in this game after 5 years of Class A baseball. And there are those stories, and those are the ones that most fans really, really like. Totally unheralded, and an all-star last year.
Yeah, those guys are easy to cheer for.
Yeah, it was interesting also to hear Jeff Luhnow say, we tell all of our players it doesn't matter where you were drafted. So Jose Altuve had to be listening when they gave him that speech because he didn't let it bother him.
I think there's got to be a certain justification, though, depending on the round and how much money those guys are given. But it seemed like when I was coming up, as soon as you got to that Double-A level where things started getting a little more serious and intense and a lot closer to the big leagues, that's when all labels were taken off and whoever produced went.
Exactly. Strikeout number 4 for Tillman. He struck out the side in the third, and it's 2-0 Baltimore.
Tune in to Chevy Hometown Kids every Saturday morning at 9:30 on CSN. Chevy Hometown Kids, where it's not about the score, but the experience.
Here at Minute Maid Park, it's game one of a three-game homestand. And the Astros will be heading out after the Thursday afternoon finale. The draft is here that night. Fans can stay and watch the draft on the big screen after the ball game Thursday. Then you guys will be going to Kansas City and Seattle. Matt Wieters leads it off. He struck out in the second inning.
Rub it in, Brownie.
Well,
I'm looking forward to it, Ash.
Yeah, well, there you go.
See, now there's a guy with a positive spin on things.
That is a good thing. Good way to go, too.
Go crush some barbecue in Kansas City and then drink all the coffee I can in Seattle. Flush the system.
There's a pop-up and Matt Dominguez comes over near the line. Say, Ash, do you think when you guys get to Kansas City, you'll see George Brett at all?
I'd sure like to. And
I would imagine we will. We may see him before then.
Okay. Well, at Lowe's, we never stop improving, and neither does Astros pitching. What a road trip this ball club had with those 37 and a third innings from starters and the bullpen guys, 16 and 2/3. They kept the walks down. Good ratio of strikeouts to walks by the starters, a 2.41 ERA. The relievers really in different combinations filled in those late innings, and it all added up to 6-0.
It's a good ratio of innings. Starters to bullpen.
That was huge.
I was just checking that, Ash, before the game tonight. Astros relievers have worked 216 innings. That's the second highest in the American League. But it's, I think it's manageable because of the way those relievers have been used lately. And Bo Porter was pretty deft in using guys like Brad Peacock, Jose Cisnero, when other guys needed a rest.
Yeah, a little miniature type piggyback situation where guys were going 3+ innings coming out of the bullpen. Cisneros done a good job. Paul Clemens, Peacock, those guys are going extended bullpen outings. But I think it was Mike Stanton earlier in the pregame that said that the Astros starters in the last 18 games, I think it is, went from a high 4.9 innings per start to 5.9.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, that's how you save a bullpen, increase their effectiveness.
That's how Mike Stanton got that long career.
Here's the other aspect of that ratio of numbers, again, that were good, is when you're on a 6-game winning streak on the road, you're pitching the bottom of the 9th inning every time, too.
Good point. And Flaherty takes a look at it after grounding out first time. He's at 1-0 in the count. Two balls, no strikes, and this game has followed the pattern of some of those on the road trip that you guys worked with. The starting pitcher not getting run support early, but not giving up the big inning.
Just keep them in the game. That's all you can ask these guys to do.
That's laced by Altuve to his right into right center field. Well hit ball with 2 outs by Flaherty, and Flaherty's 1 for 2 now. And Valencia bats next. He homered in the 3rd inning to make it 1-0 Baltimore. Valencia came up with the Minnesota organization. Then one trade took him to Boston, another one to Baltimore. He's a University of Miami guy. And he's 28 years old. Buck Showalter's team got off to a nice month of April. Has stayed right in the thick of things here in the first couple months of the season. There's a strike to Valencia. They had a bit of a downturn in mid-May when the closer Jim Johnson had some blown saves, but they seem to have things righted now after that 4-1 homestand, and they just won 2 of 3 from Detroit. So that's a good sign for those fans in Baltimore, hoping for another postseason appearance this year.
They've got the great offense. We've seen that. But their pitching staff, 13th in the American League with ERA of 4.5. That puts a lot of pressure on that offense to score.
It really does. They don't have that dominant starting pitcher. And that's strikeout number 5. It's 2-0 Baltimore. And we have a little spray chart on his hits and where they have gone so far this year. 18 hits since May 18th. And he has been ripping it up. Let's see where the hits have gone, though. And good distribution there on the singles. And he's pulled several of the doubles. And then the home runs have been sprayed around, Jeff.
Yeah, actually, it has. I mean, all four of them. Right field, right center, left field. So he's doing a good job. And Ash and I had hit on it throughout the course of the season. Even when he's been struggling, his hard outs have been the other way and up the middle. So he hasn't deviated from the game plan he started with throughout the season. It's good to see that when he is getting those hits, they're up the middle. And when he has a chance to drive it, he's yanking those things all over the place.
My hunch would be if you went back to the early part of the season, you'd see a reversal of what we just saw there on that chart. Most of the hits would go the other way.
But when you're going good, you're hitting the fastball up the middle the other way, and you're getting those mistakes like the off-speed pitches in the zone and jerking those out to right field.
As you pointed out, Ash, Castro now that he's healthy and he has really come out. We're seeing the Jason Castro the Astros had hoped they would see when they drafted him in the first round in 08. Hitting the ball to all fields. He's catching well. He's done a nice job on a lot of balls in the turf. He's commanding that pitching staff. And there you see the way these two guys, Davis and Castro, have done since May 20th.
Chris Davis has just simply been a house of fire. The guy has been absolutely amazing. So if you keep somewhere close to those figures, you're doing awfully well.
This one heads for left center, but there's some hang time for Adam Jones. However, it's the left fielder who makes the catch. McLeod, one out. You know, as we were talking earlier about first-round picks, it's so fascinating to follow the progress of players. And for Jason Castro, that knee injury really derailed him. But now, you don't always expect a guy to come out and have a big year there in his first full, really big season because he hasn't had the playing time. But that's what he's in the process of doing right now. J.D. Martinez with the bouncer. Machado slings it across. 2 outs. In this series, you're seeing two of the top defensive third basemen in Matt Dominguez and Machado in the American League.
And both just babes.
J.J. Hardy is under contract to play shortstop for another year after this one. There are some who are speculating that maybe Hardy will exit the scene after 2014 and Machado will become the shortstop.
I think we need to put a heart monitor on those two guys at third base, Dominguez and Machado, and see who has the higher heart rate. Matt Dominguez just never seems to get excited.
Yeah, that's right. Carlos Pena takes, and there's strike one.
Yeah, he had a couple bullets hit at him in that series in Anaheim in the 9th inning, and it looked like he was taking ground balls in between innings from Carlos Pena. I was pretty impressed.
Yeah. He's got those soft hands, and he stays relaxed.
Yeah, if you're looking for that guy who can handle the pressure and just stay low-key, that's Matt Dominguez.
Well, there was a story involving a play by Machado last year in September in that pennant race in the AL East in a 2-2 game in the 9th inning against Tampa Bay. He really pulled off a slick play. Runner at second, topped ball. He came in, he faked a throw to first, got that runner to round third and threw him out. And that's a very wise play by a young third baseman who had only played a few games.
I think that's a credit to the baseball savvy that you can't really scout or develop. It's just in his blood, in his nature to have that savvy and wherewithal to figure out how to get outs.
Thing is, to make that play work, he needed the cooperation of shortstop J.J. Hardy, who alertly covered the bag. They've got a heady club.
Top to first base. Davis with the play. It's a 1-2-3 fourth, and after 4, it's 2-0 Baltimore.
Presents Picnic in the Park, Sunday, June 16th. Join the Astros on the field after the 1:10 game for a player autograph session, free picnic blanket, and a terrific cookout. Get your tickets today by calling 1-713-259-8851 or email picnic@astros.com.
Looks like fun.
They better be wearing those same outfits when they have that picnic, too.
Nate McLeod
Couldn't do otherwise.
No. They ball one. Lucas Harrell, a moment ago on that tape, is wearing the stovepipe hat.
Will they have some Grey Poupon for those so inclined?
That's a must.
I think that's what Orbit's job is, to supply that.
Well, Orbit doesn't look like a Grey Poupon type guy. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Guarantee there's some mayo on that sandwich if he's eating it.
Yeah. It's a 2-1 count.
Speaking of which, the Bobble Belly coming up, huh?
When is that, Nash?
I don't know. What is the date on that one now?
What is a bobble
I
belly?
have never heard of a Bobble Belly before.
If it was mine, it'd be a bobble boiler.
Just look over here, Ash, if you haven't heard of one. There's a ball in the air to left field. And Martinez gets underneath it. That's out the move for Lucas Harrell. Now, Lucas came into this game leading the American League in walks with 37. And he has not walked a man.
Yeah, came into today's game with 37 walks, 35 Ks. You don't see that too often with a higher walk to K ratio.
True. 75 pitches. Manny Machado doubled to left. He's 1 for 2. They strike one to Machado, 20 years old. He's keenly aware of course, the exploits at Baltimore of Brooks Robinson at third base, Cal Ripken at shortstop. He may fall into line with those two greats over the course of his career. Fly ball out to right center field. Here's Barnes coming for it. Barnes laying out for it. Brandon Barnes with a tremendous catch.
Brandon Barnes can flat play some D in center field. There's just no doubt gap to gap he can go get it. Can he swing the bat enough to maintain that position for the club?
Look at that flying catch.
That was impressive. I didn't know what to say right there. He was airborne for a good second and a half, it looked like. Kept his eye on the ball, and that's beautiful right there.
That is truly an amazing play.
Where have you gone, Pete Rose?
Oh, boy, he just stayed horizontal for a few seconds there, floating through the air.
Zero respect for his body.
Oh, you know he's got to be feeling that. That's a hard landing. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Good for him to recognize the situation, too. He knows darn well that Justin Maxwell's out on a rehab assignment, so he's going to go out there. He's been playing his heart out all season, but to make those plays at this time is even better.
Slapped in a hole. Here's Marwin. Quick release and the dig by Carter at first. The Astros are really throwing some leather around Minute Maid Park. This was a spectacular catch, and it's 2-0. Houston Astros baseball on Comcast Sportsnet is brought to you by Progressive. Visit Progressive.com today. The Astros have only one hit, but they're hanging in there, trailing Baltimore 2-0 as we go to the bottom of the 5th inning at Minute Maid Park. The hit came from Brandon Barnes leading off the game for Houston. Chris Tillman then walked Castro in the 1st inning. He hit Pena in the 2nd, but since then has retired 9 in a row, and it's Chris Carter batting. Comes in high, ball 1 to Carter, who struck out in the 2nd. Tillman was born in Anaheim, California, went to Everett Community College in Washington. Big curveball is outside, and it's a 2-0 count.
Chris Tillman isn't looking like the guy that gave up 4 home runs, including 3 to Ryan Zimmerman his last outing.
Ooh. He is not. It's 3-0. He's had batters like this, but then he gets it back together again, Blummer.
Just doesn't give in to the middle part of the plate. Even though he's fallen behind a couple guys 3-0, 3-1, he continues to go to the outside corner. Well, unless it's 3-0, I guess he's just going to pump it down the middle and prove me wrong.
Well, that last game you mentioned, Jeff, in Baltimore, and that ballpark, again, is just one of the most hitter-friendly parks in baseball. You're going to give up some home runs there.
3-2 now. The ball does jump there at Camden Yards. And ball 4 puts Carter on. 2nd walk in the ninth for Tillman.
Tillman up to 95 on that heater.
Carter becomes a base runner, and it's Jimmy Paredes coming up next. Jimmy grounded out in the 2nd inning. Well, last night the Astros survived, winning 2-1 with a minimum of offense, 3 hits. They got a Carter homer in the 5th. They got a double from Dominguez, a sac bunt, and a sac fly in the 6th inning, and that was it as they beat the Angels 2-1. And Dominguez on deck now. And strike 1 for Jimmy. Yankees lead Cleveland 4-3. They're in the top of the 7th at Yankee Stadium. It's Miami 2, Philadelphia 2. Throw goes over to first on Carter. They're in the bottom of the 8th at Philly. Detroit is up on Tampa Bay 8-1 in Detroit in the bottom of the 7th inning. Jimmy looks at it. It's a ball, and it's 1-1 to Jimmy. Well, obviously, these Astros outfielders know that Justin Maxwell is working his way back to the club. He's going to be in that lineup when he returns. Not sure when that will be. But Brandon Barnes made a spectacular catch. So you do what you can do on an everyday basis. And then those decisions, of course, will be made down the line. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Look, Brandon Barnes would love to hit over 300 and play the kind of D he plays. He's done a great job, and he's driven in some big runs for the club. The question is it enough to be able to hang on and get a spot in the outfield once everybody's healthy and ready to go?
I think he's done a good enough job to prove himself to be an everyday outfielder. Putting up decent numbers, 270, playing a great defense.
Paredes is down on strikes. That's number 5.
Join us for the Astros and White Sox on June 14th as we celebrate Orbit's birthday with a Big and Bright Friday night. 10,000 fans will receive a Big and Bright t-shirt courtesy of the Methodist Hospital System. Stay after the game for a spectacular alien-themed fireworks show presented by Marathon Oil. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com to get your tickets today.
Alien theme.
Why not?
And Dominguez puts one in the air, right field line. Coming over for it, Markakis. He's up the room, and it's out of play.
What about a platoon situation in right field, Ash? Jimmy Paredes swings the bat pretty decently left-handed. Brandon Barnes, obviously, to start the season, was getting a lot of starts against left-handed pitching.
Well, you and I were talking about that the other day, and I think it's certainly a possibility. It sounds like Justin Maxwell, at least for some period of time, is going to be the everyday center fielder. So if you can get the best of both worlds out of the other two guys in right field, why not? Are you set in left field at this point?
Offensively, yes. JD, I think, has been doing a great job at the plate in that four-hole, protecting Jason Castro and getting some big 2-out RBIs.
Is Chris Carter a first baseman, an outfielder, or a DH? And how does that impact the other guys?
There's so many moves.
Because I think you could have the discussion that if Carter is going to get a chance to play at first base, JD Martinez could also be the DH instead of the left fielder. I think there's still quite a bit to be worked out.
I agree. Let alone just to get Justin Maxwell onto the roster. Brad Peacock came on right before that Colorado series in Colorado, and Robbie Grossman got sent out. So is he the odd man out, or is it Trevor Crow, who's that role player off the bench for the Astros?
Tillman throws to the second sacker, and that's quite a play by Ryan Flaherty, who gets it on to first. Not sure who was going to take that throw, but Flaherty went in there and flashed across the bag to make it a 1-4-3 double play. And after 5-2 nothing Baltimore.
Excuse me, it's 2-0 Orioles. Don't miss your chance to get your Orbit Bobble Belly. Saturday, June 15th, the Astros take on the Chicago White Sox at 6:15. Be sure to get to Minute Maid Park early, as 10,000 fans will receive an Orbit Bobble Belly, courtesy of Coca-Cola. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS to get your tickets now, guys.
Thanks, Julia. There's that big awaited day that Ash told us about, Saturday, June 15th.
Hey, Julia, do they have any strawberry shortcake here at the ballpark by any chance?
Oh, I'm busted. I did find some.
You are flat busted.
Well, you know, it's good to be back home.
It is.
Where I know the food here. Good food here.
Yeah, that sounds kind of good.
Adam Jones with a fly ball to right field. And Lucas Harrell on one pitch. It's a fly ball out to Jimmy Paredes. One down.
And it's pitch by pitch time, presented by Steel Dealers. Look back at Chris Davis's AB against Lucas Harrell. You can say that he's trying to stay away from him every pitch on that outside corner. A couple change-ups in there, got him to foul one off, but eventually put him away with just a good sinker on the outside corner. Don't want to throw it in that wheelhouse to Chris Davis. He hasn't been missing many pitches of late.
Well, he'll also take that pitch down and away and drive it out to the deepest part of left or left center.
Well, he had a broken bat single to right in the second inning, struck out in the third.
He has been just a monster at the plate this year.
Believe it or not, his OPS is higher than Miguel Cabrera.
That speaks volumes.
It really does.
My goodness.
Shoots that one out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike count. He was player of the month in the American League in April. He had 9 homers, drove in 28 runs. He had 16 runs batted in his first 4 games. He's chasing fewer pitches out of the strike zone than he did last year. In tight. 2-1 to Davis.
I think that's a good pitch by Lucas. Chris might be starting to lean a little bit out over the plate, realizing he's getting so many pitches away. Back him up a little bit.
Well, Lucas did get him to go for that one. 2-2. Harrell facing the Orioles for the first time in his career. The home run leader, that one's in tight to him, and it's 3-2 to Davis. There's a report that Major League Baseball is trying to get more information on about 20 players connected to the Miami area clinic, part of that ongoing performance enhancing drug scandal, including A-Rod and Brian Braun. Fly ball center field. Barnes. 2 outs. And according to this report, some of these suspensions might be handed down, which could be the largest performance enhancing drug scandal in American sports history.
Actually, when you guys were first talking to Jeff Luno, I was in the hallway and I ran into Richard Justice, and he had just pulled it up on his phone, and rumor has it that the founder of that biogenesis down there in Miami has agreed somehow to give a full testimony to Major League Baseball in that investigation. And there was also a note in that report saying that they're going to suspend these guys up to 100 games.
Ooh.
So this is going to be a big deal over the next couple days to see how it unfolds.
And there may be a number of other names involved in that whole thing. I got a chance to talk to Richard as well, and that's the story. It sounds like MLB's ready to move on it.
Yeah, I think that whole Ryan Braun situation, how he beat, he found a loophole in the whole drug testing situation, may have marred the whole testing issue itself. And I don't think the commissioner took too kindly to that and doesn't want to have that happen again. And he's looking to be a lot more aggressive with these suspensions and getting these guys to pay the price for doing what they supposedly did so far.
It's 2-2.
Yeah, it says that Tony Bosch is, and he's the founder of the Biogenesis of America Foundation, that he is ready to cooperate.
What made him ready?
I would imagine he was going to be facing some time.
Dominguez catches a pop-up by Wieters in the middle of the 6th. It's 2-0 Baltimore.
the Astros continue their series against the Orioles tomorrow and Thursday. Come see Castro and Altuve face off against Chris Davis and Manny Machado and the rest of the Orioles. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit Astros.com to get your tickets now, guys.
Thanks, Julia. Look forward to those upcoming games. A lot of good games coming up as we get into summertime. The kids are out of school. You can bring the whole family out. And it doesn't matter particularly what night of the week. They can stay up later. It's okay.
They've got a note from you, right?
Yeah. They got a hall pass. Marwin Gonzalez struck out in the third inning. Now he comes around for the second time. Number 9 in the order, but leading off this inning. And that's typically in an American League type lineup the way the manager might think, hey, my number 9 hitter could be a leadoff guy. I want somebody who can run a little bit and move the ball around, make some contact. So that's what he's trying to do, get something started after the Astros have been held to 1 hit. But it's in the air to left field, and McLeod comes in for it. 1 out.
And Inside the Lines is brought to you by Scotch Blue Painters Tape. Scotch Blue, see what you can do. And Brandon Barnes led off this game with a base hit and proceeded to go out on defense and make a phenomenal diving play, which just opens up that question in the outfield when Justin Maxwell returns. All kinds of situations and opportunities with Brandon Barnes. Brandon Barnes is really taking advantage of him and showing a lot of his skills here. And what an asset he is to this ball club.
He really is. Plays the game very hard.
The other thing he's done defensively is he's shown that he can throw out runners.
Yeah, he tried to get challenged yesterday and threw him out.
Made probably the best throw to the plate we've seen this year.
And I think that's also a credit to how he plays the outfield. He's aggressive coming in on those balls, charging, cutting down on that distance between where he's at and home plate, making an easier throw for him.
Good point. It's a 1-ball, 1-strike count for Chris Tillman with the 2-0 lead. The Astros have had problems scoring runs here in their home ballpark this year. They've scored 111 runs in 30 games. That's a high drive, making 112 as Barnes hits one a long way to left. And it's 2-1 Baltimore. That's number 3 for Brandon Barnes.
How about it? Give the guy a little pub, dress it up a little bit, and what's he do? He steps up and hits a big bomb for the Astros.
He really did. He crushed that ball.
This guy was on a home run tear back in spring training, and I guess I just haven't seen enough of Brandon Barnes to say I know what he can do. But when he does something like this, and this ball was way up in Pujols-ville, it just leaves me wondering, is there more there than a lot of people are aware of?
He's getting consistent ABs, so hopefully this is one of those streaks he can get on. When he was in spring, he was getting those consistent ABs and was crushing the ball all over the ballpark.
Looks like it was off the Champion Energy Services sign. That would have been way out of the ballpark had the roof not been closed. Altuve fouls it.
Yeah, that was a big one. And Brandon Barnes in spring training, it's one of those things you see a guy doing it in spring training, you're like, hey, well, he's taking some good passes at the ball, but again, it's still spring training. You want to see these guys start to do it in a regular season type situation, and now that he's getting the opportunities, he's looking pretty good with it.
Most guys just don't have that kind of power within themselves to hit a ball this far. Brandon Barnes now has shown that he can do that. That means there's a lot of ability deep down inside.
I got a run back quickly. It was the 12th home run allowed by Tillman. That's in 68 innings.
Astros are hoping that's the swing that wakes him up.
Tillman has allowed at least 2 homers in each of his last 3 games. Altuve takes, and it's 2-2. Astros have hit big home runs in recent games. Chris Carter's hit 3 on the road trip. With a liner into center field. Altuve takes his hitting streak to 7 games. Coming into this inning, the Astros had 1 hit. Now they stir it up with Altuve reaching for Castro.
Just a tough pitch, as tough as they come, where you've got to protect the strike zone. It's a unique ability that some players have to, in an awkward position, be able to hit a ball sharply for a base hit.
It is an awkward position, like you said, Ash. You know, rear end going one way, hands going another, but his hands are back, and he does such a good job of letting that ball travel. Instead of trying to reach out in front and try and go get it, he let it get closer to the plate, allowed him to hit that ball at the middle.
Throw goes over on Altuve, who has 9 steals and 13 passes.
For me, he's just a good hitter.
Absolutely.
There's no way around it.
No doubt.
No stolen bases against Tillman in 4 attempts this year. Astro looks at it. It's a ball to Jason.
I think Lucas Harrell's last outing, the Colorado Rockies had 4 stolen bases against him in 1 game. A little bit different for Chris Tillman.
Last year, the batting average against Chris Tillman was .207. This year, .270. The Astros have been manufacturing runs and winning these close games recently. They've just been able to figure out a way. A really good trend. 13 of the last 18 have been decided by 2 runs or less. The Astros are 9-4 in those 13.
I think you're right, Brownie. It is a trend, and these guys have figured it out, and they realize they can't hit the long ball. And Ash threw out some stats the other day where, you know, what the record is with the long ball, but at the same time, their pitchers have been keeping it close. But when you're getting 3 hits a game, 5 today, 3 again today, you got to manufacture.
Yeah.
Well, people have for decades, century plus in this game, said it's all about pitching. I guess Yogi said it was 90% pitching and the other 10% is whatever. And, you know, but the bottom line is you still have to score more than the opposition. And the home run is the best way to score runs. You combine good pitching with some pop in your lineup, and you've got a chance to win a lot of games.
Some people say pitching is 50%. What percentage would you put on it?
I don't know that I can put a percentage. For me, it's ideal to have great starting pitching because it keeps you in ball game after ball game. Number 1. So therefore, pitching has that great value. But when it's all said and done, again, you have to score more than the opposition. And you can find years where at the end of the season, teams that get into postseason play are teams that dominated by pitching and some that dominate by hitting. But again, bottom line, score more than the opposition.
Astro lets it fly, but it's a foul tip strikeout. 2 outs. Number 6. And it's J.D. Martinez. He's grounded out twice.
Not a bad swing by Jason. Just a pitch, maybe just a hair up, swung right through it. You can see he was pretty much right on it, just above his barrel.
Brownie, here's a quick response. Last year, teams that had the most runs scored in the major leagues were teams that also got themselves into postseason play for the good part. Texas, the Yankees, Angels, Cardinals. Those teams were at the top end of the list in runs scored, so they had great offenses. And other years, you can find that it turns around to that pitching side. Last year, the top pitching teams were Tampa Bay, Washington, and the Dodgers. And you get a little bit of a mixed review there.
Interesting.
And I don't think any one year is the definitive. I think, again, when it's all said and done, your balance as a club in terms of your pitching and your offense is probably the best indicator as to how good you're going to be.
Exactly. Well, if you would say, all right, Team X is in the top 5 in the league in ERA, also in the top 5 in the league runs scored. That's a playoff team, isn't it?
Absolutely should be a playoff team. And what do you look at when you look at teams that are at the top or near the top in their divisions? Usually you look at that run differential, and they're going to be on the plus side. There's just no way around it. Now, you can read that, the tea leaves, any way you want. But again, you combine solid pitching and quality offense, and you should be a winning ball club.
The Orioles, for example, have scored 289 runs. That's 19 more than their opponents. And they're 7 games over 500. Bounce at third. Backhander, Machado. And he lasers the throw across. Brandon Barnes' 3rd home run of the season makes it a 1-run game, and it's 2-1 Baltimore after 6.
Time for our AT&T tweet of the game. It's from Mr. Bud Norris, starting pitch for the Astros. He says, at Jose Altuve doesn't walk on the ground. Hashtag still doesn't hit the ceiling. I have no comment for that. But it just goes to show how much fun Jose Altuve is having during this team's win streak that they just recently came off of. And as long as he's happy about that, he's also very upset with himself not being able to produce as much. And when I'm saying that, his numbers are lower, but he just doesn't have as many multi-hit games. And it just goes to show what Jose Altuve can do. And I asked the guys, are like, he is the least of our worries. Just goes to show what kind of guy Jose Altuve is, guys.
Yep. J.J. Hardy's 1 for 2. 2-0 pitch is in the air, and that's a high pitch that Hardy went for, and he popped it up. And let's see, J.D. Martinez off the back of Gonzalez.
Wow. I mean, I think the Astros have learned their lesson, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Had some issues out there, communication. J.D. dropped a fly ball in Anaheim.
Look, we can't say when J.D. Martinez started hollering. You could see him hollering right there. But if it takes till that point, it's too late. If that infielder is already camped.
And as an ex-infielder, when I'm camped under a ball like Marwin is there, and you see him wave the arms. I wanted to wait to see if we saw it on the replay, but he waves his arms. He's camped under it. Outfielder kids, let the infielder take it.
Now, again, if Martinez 4 seconds, 3-4 seconds prior to that is hollering, the outfielder has the right to call off the infielder. But if you're coming down to that last moment and you suddenly say, I got it, that doesn't mean that the infielder is supposed to peel away.
It's tough to peel away that late.
And Flaherty is 1 for 2. Big cut.
Well, that's a nice changeup from Lucas.
Josh Fields is on the left, Wesley Wright on the right.
Lucas Harrell, next pitch will be at 100 in that game in Colorado where he only went 5 2/3. He threw 119.
And sometimes there's a residual effect after pitching in Colorado and throwing that many pitches too.
Exactly. Yeah, that high altitude, a little bit extra stress on the body. He got to fly in early, didn't have to be on that flight that landed at 5 a.m.
Statistically, that ballpark really didn't seem to have any impact on the Astros pitching.
True. That's one of the rare times we've been able to say that, right?
A lot of teams, yeah.
And that Rockies team, prior to the Astros matching up against them, starting with a couple of games here before leaving on the road trip, they led the major leagues in runs per game, or led the National League at least at that point. And the Astros completely quieted down those bats.
Well, they certainly did. In the air to shallow center field, and Barnes is coming in. Gonzalez out. Gonzalez backpedals his way to it.
That was well done right there.
MLB.com At Bat is the #1 source for live baseball everywhere you go. Available for iPhone, iPad, Android, and BlackBerry 10. At Bat delivers Astros baseball with live audio, pitch tracking, stats, news, highlights, and more. Text At Bat to 31826 or visit Astros.com for details.
You got that memorized by now.
I do. Locked in.
15,920 the paid attendance, including those folks. Those people are here from Pasadena, Texas. Here's ball one. Danny Valencia homered in the third and struck out in the fourth. How did I know that? I made it up.
I'm good at that.
Two balls, no strikes.
It's not to imply you're making up any of those names of the ball guys and girls down the line. So that's going to let me down if I hear that.
Wouldn't want to disappoint, Ed.
I've got advanced scouts on that. People on the inside working for me.
I think Blummer and Steve Sparks have something going on that.
For example, these two.
That's Robert and Chris.
Nice.
Busted.
Two balls, two strikes.
Thanks for playing.
Selling me out this early in the season. Man.
Bo Porter was asked about Lucas Harrell before the game, and he said, I think it comes down to composure. But then he went on to add that he saw composure last time Lucas started in that game we talked about in Colorado, pitching around the 3 errors in 1 inning. And he's seeing more of it tonight.
Certainly saw some composure once Doug Brocail got done with him, that's for certain.
I think that was the talk that turned it around.
Yeah.
We all need to talk every now and then. Whoa. Struck him out. That's number 6. And he's retired 10 in a row now. In the middle of the 7th inning, it's 2-1 Baltimore. 4-2. Houston won. The Orioles got a homer from Valencia in the third inning, and then another run after a double by Machado. The Astros a long ball from Brandon Barnes in the sixth inning, and now Carlos Pena will be batting in a moment. Let's take a look at his road trip.
He's been on fire. Doing a little bit of everything. That last road trip going 8 for 23, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. Wreaking havoc on the base paths. I think he even mixed in a stolen base. The shift, he's had the shift played on him everywhere he's gone and continue to hit through it, over it, around it, under it.
Yeah, he's been the shift killer, and you can see some balls hit in the air. He tends to go back up the middle toward left center a little bit. He's also pulled it down the line. But the guy is maybe playing better ball than he's played offensively for last few years.
Second baseman comes in and makes the throw from shallow right field. Ryan Flaherty takes care of Pena's grounder, 1 out. Well, Chris Tillman, who retired 9 in a row, stacked up against Lucas Harrell, who is currently retired 10 in a row, as these two right-handers take it deep into the game tonight. Chris Carter struck out and he walked.
Seen some good pitching on this road trip. Astros actually able to beat Jerome Williams, who pitched extremely well yesterday. Joe Blanton, who nobody expected to pitch that well, did a great job.
It was surprising.
Still couldn't get the win.
The curveball comes in and it's strike 1, and tonight it's Lucas Harrell falling right into line with Bud Norris and the other starters in this rotation.
Yesterday, one of those days where the Astros get the good starting pitching. They pick up the win with 3 hits, but one of those 3 hits a big home run. So it was that nice combination. You've got kind of the flip thing going on here tonight. They do get the home run, but they're trailing despite very good starting pitching. Need some offense combined.
The big man takes it. It's a 1-ball 2-strike count on Chris. These quality starts are really adding up for the Astros. They've had 4 in the last 5 games. Lucas Harrell was 1 out short of getting 1. And now a strikeout. That's number 7 for Tillman. Gives him out number 2.
Some of you watching this game right now don't have CSN in your own home. If your TV provider doesn't carry CSN yet, call and tell them you want CSN so you can have the very best coverage of your Astros. This is your network, Astros fans. You deserve it. To get the facts, go to iwantcsn.com.
Jimmy Paredes 0 for 2. And that curveball comes back into play for Tillman. He's been saving that pitch. Earlier in the game, it was not as reliable for him. Now he's just throwing it at will, but that one's grounded into right field. And Paredes is on with a 2-out single.
It's good to see from Jimmy Paredes. We were in Anaheim, and he got a ton of off-speed pitches and kind of scuffled a little bit, going 1 for 11 in that Angels series. But I guess if you start seeing enough of him, you start to make the adjustment. And Jimmy Paredes went down and got that one and got himself a knock.
Well, he may hit just a roller through the right side, but he had a swing that was capable of driving the ball. And I think that's one of the things you want to watch for all the time when you're sizing up how a guy does on a slider or a curveball or whatever the case may be. Get that good, healthy swing.
Tommy Hunter is throwing in the bullpen for Baltimore. That's foul back, and the high fastball goes to strike 1 to Matt Dominguez, who's 0 for 2. The Baltimore bullpen has 13 victories. Buck Showalter's starting rotation is not one with a lot of firepower, so to speak. Not the big name starters with a lot of wins. Their top winner is Jason Hamill. He's 7-3. His ERA is 5.43. But they have a pretty well-rounded starting rotation. So they're in a lot of games. And that was what they did last year, and it worked out fine for a playoff team. That's a strike. It's 0-2 to Domingo. Kevin Gossman up for a start, as Jeff Luhnow mentioned earlier. He was drafted last year. It's a 1-2 count. Orioles have played 15 one-run games. They're 8-7. The Astros have played 18. They're 7-11. Runner going, ground ball, foul. Well, last year the Orioles just had magic going, whether it was a one-run game or an extra inning game. They really won more than their share of those. They were 29-9 in one-run games last year. And there were 16-2 in extra inning games for Buck Showalter last year. The odds are that they will not be repeating those numbers.
Well, they were a phenomenon with those numbers last year. And they, like all teams that come up with real nice positive numbers, had all the explanations as to why that was the case. But the thing about this game is it's going to bite you. and you can come back the next year and you can flip those numbers around just as easily as can be.
Yep. It's like a couple of alligator jaws.
Yep.
About a foot behind your backside just when you think things are going well.
We've got a great makeup on this ball club. We hang in there, we battle. And then, of course, when it turns around, you're hard-pressed to come up with the explanation as to why you're so unfortunate that things are bouncing against you.
Yeah.
The 2011 season with the Arizona Diamondbacks, when we ended up winning the West, it was a similar situation. We get into the ninth inning, we'd be down by 3 or 4 runs, and we would just, we're going to end up winning this game. And we ended up winning most of those games late in the game. But the next year you come out and you can't repeat that kind of magic. You can't teach that. That's just something that happens throughout the course of the season with the right mix and they're having the right guys in that part of your lineup up at that time. But
you cannot will the magic.
It's amazing. Yeah, you cannot.
Hunter has been warming up. He's taking a break now. Jim Presley is nearest the camera there, the hitting coach. Second baseman Flaherty moving up the middle. A runner goes and it's fouled back.
Jimmy's been getting some pretty decent jumps, and I like the pitches that he's running on. That one there might have been a little bit of a cutter, but early in the count he's taken off twice, both on breaking balls, which is a pretty good situation. Try and attempt to steal second base against a tough guy like Chris Tillman and Wieters behind the plate.
Paredes goes again, and it's a ball, and it gets away from Wieters. Stolen base for Paredes, his second.
Yeah, that's rare. Matt Wieters, a big body behind the plate, but this body can come up with a quick release, put it on the money so consistently. He's a heck of a throwing catcher.
I think the location of that pitch might have helped out Jimmy a little bit as far as Wieters in the exchange. See, he was kind of down and away and trying to make that transition to his bare hand. The ball popped out. But gutsy. Jimmy wasn't giving in. He was going to take that bag.
Bounce foul. That bag could be awfully important to the Astros now. Steal with 2 outs.
Sometimes youth knows no fear. And that can be a very good thing.
It can be.
Brownie, these are the situations over the last 6 games where the Astros have been coming through in those 2-out RBI type situations that have helped the ball club propel to that 6-0 road trip.
Yes. And a strikeout ends it. That's number 8. No runs a hit. A man stranded after 7. 2-1 Baltimore.
Tomorrow night, it's Game 2 of our series with Chris Davis and the Orioles. Astros pregame live starts at 7 p.m. only on Comcast Sportsnet.
Let's take a look at tomorrow's pitching matchup, brought to you by Chevron. Oof. Care for your car. That is not Freddie Garcia.
No, it's not Freddie.
He's a much better looking man than that. Ex-teammate, still pitching in the league. I think we said he was 37 years old. And Dallas Keuchel is going to take the mound for the Astros. Had a good outing. He's referenced to pitching with Eric Bedard, and having another left-hander in that rotation has really helped him out as far as strategizing against some of these big league hitters.
Now the question is, on Know Your Orioles, who was that? was that Miguel Gonzalez?
Who was that needs to take offense to those comments?
Yeah, we need to figure out who that is.
Okay.
Somebody on that.
We'll get somebody on it. Do we have an intern? Nate McLeod leads it off. Wesley Wright just in the game after Lucas Harrell in 7 innings allowed 5 hits, 2 runs, 1 of them earned.
You just call me an intern, Browning?
No, not you. They strike me.
How many sugars you want in your coffee? I'll be right back.
You're a full doctor. No walks and 6 strikeouts for Lucas Harrell, and a very good night's work. And of course, of the 2 runs, 1 was earned. So his ERA is coming down. 1 ball, 1 strike to McLeod. McLeod was 0 for 3. Wright coming in after retiring the only 2 batters he faced last night on just 5 pitches. You got lefty hitting J.B. Shuck and switch hitter Ibar. There's a shot on the line in center field. A hit from McLeod. Hit number 6 for the Birds. That pitcher was Luis Ayala was the guy who was pictured, by the way. We just found out.
Good research, Browning.
Well, we've got a great intern up here.
Thank you. Thank you, Browning. I appreciate that.
Wesley Wright's 0-1 with a 4.09 ERA.
That average against left-handed hitters is what jumps out to me. Wes Wright, a left-handed pitcher, 275 against him for left-handed hitters.
It's the on-base percentage that really starts to add up.
Machado doubled in the 3rd inning and scored. He was robbed by the tremendous Barnes catch in the 5th inning on his line drive. McLeod the base runner. Castro goes out for a chat. McLeod has 19 steals in 20 tries. Wesley Wright is tied for 2nd in the American League in appearances coming into this game tonight. This is number 29 for Wes. Machado looks at it, and it's ball 1 to Manning.
Yeah, that on-base percentage prior to that base hit by the left-hand hitting Nate McLeod. Left-hand hitters against Wright this year at .365.
It's 2-0. Machado was at Bowie last year, called up to Baltimore where he had 191 at-bats in his rookie season. He played every inning of every game at third base after he was called up in August to Baltimore. And over that stretch, the Orioles were 33-17.
They were one of those ball clubs, Brownie, that had a really nice first half, first 2/3 of the season, and everybody kept saying, well, they'll fall. They're just not that good. But when Manny Machado came on, started playing third base every day, they became better. And it just shocked a lot of people.
It really did, because even though he had been a first-round pick, it's a little nervy for some people. It certainly worked for Buck Showalter. Runner goes here, and the throw from Castro. Not in time to get McLeod, who stole his 20th.
And how you become a pretty good ball club is winning those games late. Pitching staff keeping them in it, but that batting average from the 7th inning on, slugging percentage and runs scored, that's how you compete and win those one-run games that Browning was talking about late in the game. Haven't done it so much this year, but still continuing to score late in the game.
You know, Brownie, you mentioned Manny Machado. The other guy the Orioles picked up and just contributed so much late last year was Nate McLeod.
Two balls, two strikes. Well, that combination right now working with McLeod at second and Machado the batter.
He was a can't-miss all-star in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Traded to Atlanta, basically disappeared until Baltimore found him again and had a resurgence.
Strike three. Machado is caught looking by Wesley Wright.
And this pitch by pitch is presented by Steel Dealers. Get a chance to see what Wesley Wright did to Manny Machado, young phenom. Staying away, a couple off-speed pitches, and then had to come back in the zone after allowing Nate McLeod to steal. It just challenged him. Spotted that good fastball down the zone.
Nice job. And on that 2-0 pitch, Castro got the strike call as he came up to make that throw on the stolen base by McLeod. Now Markakis. He takes off for third. And the throw from Castro wide off Dominguez's glove. And here's McLeod coming home to score to make it 3-1. And McLeod broke for third, gets another steal, his 21st there, and comes home as the throw is off the glove of Dominguez into left field.
Wesley Wright just gets nabbed right here. Now, if Castro makes a perfect throw, could be close. When you put the heat on like this, it can set up opportunities to pick up runs that you wouldn't otherwise get, and that's exactly what happens for the O's.
Castro draws the throwing error to allow the run to score. Little bouncer to right. 2 outs.
In spring training, you're doing all the PFPs and things like that. And Wesley Wright's job, or any pitcher for that matter, with a speedy runner at second base, is to get him to stop. And you saw from that home plate cam where Nate McLeod was almost jumping out there and had a head start on Wesley Wright. But yeah, if it was a perfect throw, you might have had a shot. But puts a lot of pressure on the catcher to make that perfect throw when the guy gets a jump like that.
I'd say that's one area where the Astros pitchers have maybe been burned as much as any other area, base running against them, not against the catchers for Houston.
Adam Jones looks at it. He's 0 for 3.
Bounce. That extra step in the end really is what nabs the bag.
And just that second look would have stopped Nate McLeod from getting a little jumpy out there.
Big cut there by Jones. 1-1. McLeod made something happen, a single, 2 steals, and scoring on the error. The Orioles are leading the league in steals. That's 47 for them this year. They've been caught only 8 times. One ball, 2 strikes. We used to watch some of those talented Colorado Rocky clubs that would lead the National League in homers and steals. That's what the Baltimore Orioles are doing in the American League this year. Lucas Harrell threw 108 pitches, 66 were strikes. Straight back. Still 1-2. Tomorrow night it's Dallas Keuchel and Freddie Garcia. Freddie Garcia at age 37, 2-2 with a 3.57 ERA. A resurgent year for Baltimore. Traded by the Astros in the Randy Johnson trade, 98. Still 1-2. Well, Freddie's not 37 yet. He'll be 37 next week. He's had a long career with almost 160 wins.
Well, to consider that he was in that big deal for Randy Johnson back in '98 feels like he's been around forever.
Doesn't it, though?
The Astros were still playing in the Astrodome at that time. Randy Johnson was packing it in.
He sure was. Electric year that was. High drive headed for the bullpen wall in right center field. Jimmy Paredes settling in, though. And 370 feet away, he takes it in for out number 3. And it's 1 run, 1 hit, 1 error in the middle of the 8th inning. McLeod has led Baltimore to a 3-1 lead.
Orioles on top of the Astros 3-1. Kevin Eschenfelder brings the heat with special guests and in-depth analysis on Sports Talk Live every night at 5 p.m. only on Comcast Sportsnet.
Now the Astros come up in the bottom of the 8th inning. As you see, Brandon Barnes is on deck. Marwin Gonzalez to lead it off against the reliever Tommy Hunter. Hunter's 3-1 with a 1.74 ERA.
You get a good idea that his stuff has been solid this year. 23 hits in 31 innings, just 5 walks. So he hasn't had a lot of base runners. Right-hand hitters might as well not show up.
Nonetheless, Brandon Barnes is not leaving the on-deck circle.
Going to go ahead and hang in there, huh?
Yeah. You take it as a challenge. There's a strike on appeal to the third base umpire Jerry Meals. It's strike 1 to Marwin. Marwin's 0 for 2. Very good night for Chris Tillman. 7 innings of 4-hit 1-run baseball, walking 2, fanning 8, hitting a batter. And it's no balls, 2 strikes. Tillman threw 113 pitches, 73 for strikes. He's in line for win number 5 of the year. Astros have some other ideas here as they bat in the 8th with Barnes and Altuve to follow Marwin Gonzalez. Hunter breaks out the breaking ball, and it's a 1-ball, 2-strike count for the former Texas Ranger right-hander. Tommy was drafted in the 2nd round in 07. And he blisters a fastball by him. Whoa, 98?
Seriously?
Pure gas.
I don't think he had that when he was starting in Texas.
I don't remember that.
Sometimes you can take those struggling starters, put them in the bullpen, and ask them to pitch an inning and give you everything they've got, and it just changes their stuff around.
Good point, Ash.
Apparently.
Brandon Barnes has had a night of it. A single, a homer, a flying catch in right center field.
One of the Walenda brothers.
Yeah. He'll take his cape off after the game. There is strike 1.
That's beautiful stuff.
Boy. We could show up early, half an hour tomorrow night, and watch that about 15 more times. Not be tired of watching that catch. No balls, 2 strikes for Tommy Hunter. Since April 12th, Tommy Hunter's 3-0 with a 0.99 ERA. It's 1-2. Tommy is from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Did you see that?
No, what happened?
We just saw a 98-mile-an-hour heater. Now we saw a 92-mile-an-hour slider.
I think cut.
Shades of J.R. Richard.
Was that he'd probably call that a cutter, but that's 94. And that's not breaking 2 inches. That's in my book what a lot of pitchers would call a slider, and he's throwing that in the low to mid 90s.
Grounded out to second. Flaherty takes care of out number 2. And Altuve will be next.
Now, may I say, in J.R. Richards' day, he was probably the most feared pitcher that hit the mound. And you could talk to so many right-hand hitters at that time, and they would talk about this unhittable 90 to 92, 93 mile an hour slider. Kind of looking at the same thing right here, at least for 1 inning.
Wow. The Jose section.
Watching this kind of stuff makes this seat that much more comfortable.
Settle in.
I'm enjoying it.
The farther we are from home plate, the nicer this looks.
Goodness.
Altuve to center field. Adam Jones backing, and Jones makes another tremendous running catch. Well, this is center fielder night here at Minute Maid Park. Jones has done that twice. He tracks it down, and it's still 3-1 Birds. To you by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. Back inside Minute Maid Park, where it's been a pitcher's ball game tonight with excellent defensive work. Both center fielders have really been on top of their game tonight. Now Wesley Wright, who came in the 8th inning, gave up a leadoff single to Nate McLeod. He stole second and third, scored on a throwing error by Jason Castro. Well, Wright comes right back out for the 9th inning with Davis, Wieters, and Hardy due up.
That was a jam in center we just saw by Adam Jones.
Boy, he can track him down, can't he?
He has become one of the game's human highlights out there.
Chris Davis singled in the 2nd on a broken bat hit. He's 1 for 3.
Yeah, he took away a double, definitely possible triple for Altuve.
There's strike one as we look back at Jones's jam.
Sorry, I got caught watching right there, but probably playing in on Altuve a little bit, and he hammered that ball over his head.
We were just checking to see if he was going to catch it again.
Well, we weren't sure because it was such a good play, but he almost caught the back of that baseball. He had to reach out so far in front of him. possible to do that. They talk about that in football all the time.
I don't know. It looked like he was running a fly pattern out there.
It sure did. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Boy, the great center fielders, though, and outfielders in general, they go back on balls like that, don't they? And make those plays time after time after time, and that allows them to play shallow and take away the hits in front of them.
I think the greatest play that, I don't know, I've seen some great ones that a center fielder's ever made.
Hopper Dominguez. Yeah.
For me, anyway, maybe that Jim Edmonds layout running straight away from home plate, straight to center field, line drive over his head, and lays out with no angle to try to gauge the baseball with and makes the catch.
Yeah, that was in the perfect game, right? At Texas.
So, yeah. Unbelievable play.
It really was. Matt Wieters is 0 for 3. Switch hitter. He's hitting .286 as a right-handed batter. This is his better side statistically this year. Here's ball 1.
He's done through the years, if my recollection serves, is it's a little better average from this side of the plate, more power from the other.
Okay. Wieters is just 27 from Charleston, South Carolina. He rolls this one. Wesley Wright comes over. Takes care of that one for out number 2. We'll have to ask Bo Porter about this. I know he did mention to Julia the other day that he was trying to conserve some of the other guys in his bullpen, but this is kind of a long outing here for Wesley Wright. 5 outs so far for Wesley. So it seems that he may be trying to limit the appearances and get more out of each appearance. Plummer, what do you think?
I think he's got a lot of things going on out there in that bullpen, but fortunately the starting pitching has gone deep into these games and allowed him that when he does bring these guys in, it's more on a limited basis as opposed to early in the season when we saw guys having to come in those 4th innings and throw a good 3 1/3 to get into that back end of the bullpen.
Well, Julia is very close to Bo. He demanded that Julia sit next to him on the bench when he did his press conference today.
I did. Thank you, Brownie. Hey, we're just trying to keep things going that are working right now. Right now, I am in a rowdy bunch of Houston Fire Department firefighters down here who took the time to come out with us today. You know, Houston's hearts are still hurting after the fire that took the lives of 4 firefighters and injured another one. And I'm with George Saldana, who's going to be my progressive fan of the game. You get this awesome bag. George, what station are you with, and who's all with you today?
I'm with Station 51, Houston Fire Department. I have a bunch of my guys from the A, B, C, and D shift out here with me.
Some moving moments there before the game, before the first pitch, with the Amazing Grace being played and just the tributes to these firefighters who have passed. What did that mean to you and your firefighter family?
Anytime you hear Amazing Grace as a fireman, it's not good. It brings tears to your eyes every time. It's something in remembrance. It's something. It's a last call for some of us firemen. So it's kind of hard. We kind of choke up every time we hear it. You know, it's a tribute that we gave to our 4 line of duty deaths. We worked with BB and Renaud, for 10 years, and we worked with Ann also and Garner. They were rookies, but we still worked with them right down the street at 68s, and we're going to hear it tomorrow, and it's going to be a little bit more heart-wrenching tomorrow. So.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Sorry for your loss, and enjoy the rest of the game today, George.
All right, thank you.
All right, guys, back up to you.
Thanks, Julia. Josh Fields in the game now. With 2 outs here in the 9th inning to face J.J. Hardy until strike 1. Wesley Wright went 1 2/3. We see Josh Fields in 3 games as a major leaguer. Has an ERA of 0. And he pitched last night, 1/3 of an inning, giving up 1 hit, no runs. Gave up a hit to Mike Trout, but then he got Albert Pujols on that diving catch. And here's an extra base hit into the left field corner by Hardy. Hardy takes the turn and goes into second base with double number 11 of the year, and he's 2 for 4.
Well, I don't know if Fields comes in the game to face the right-hand hitting J.J. Hardy, or if he just comes in to get a little work tonight and ideally get out with facing just one hitter. But obviously, if it's the latter, it doesn't quite work out that way.
And so now he faces the lefty hitting Flaherty. Flaherty's 1 for 3. That was hit number 7 for the Orioles. And strike one for Josh Fields. He spent time on the disabled list, went to the minor leagues, and then has returned now in recent days to try to fit into this bullpen at age 27. He's from Hull, Georgia. He's a closer at the University of Georgia. 0-2. Jim Johnson is the closer for the Orioles. He is up and working right now in their bullpen. As of now, this is a save situation, so Johnson's getting ready. Castro, Martinez, and Pena due to bat in the Houston ninth. That's into right center field, and that's going to make it 4-1. RBI single for Flaherty. Flaherty 2 for 4 tonight. Picks up his 8th run batted in, and a couple of 2-out hits put together. And the Birds up by 3 now.
First earned run put on Josh Fields this season.
Well, that's a big run for the Orioles in a ball game like this. Anytime you can extend that lead late.
Curveball right down the middle.
Danny Valencia is the batter. Valencia homered in the 3rd. He's 1 for 3. Rockies beat the Reds at Cincinnati 5-4. Josh Outman won that one. It's 2 balls, no strikes. Troy Tulowitzki hit his 13th homer. The Reds are tough to beat at home. They're 21-8. Ian Desmond homered, his 8th of the year, and the Nationals down the Mets in Washington 3-2. Ryan Zimmerman continues to have major throwing difficulties. 2 balls and a strike. The Red Sox pounded the Rangers in Boston 17-5. David Ortiz doubled and tripled and drove in 3.
Triple?
Triple is odd for him, isn't it?
Yeah. Outfielders run into each other and fall down.
Yeah, they probably did.
How many outfielders were carried off the field after that play?
Maybe all 3.
Man.
That's rarity. A triple for him.
Next thing you know, Albert Pujols is going to have a triple.
Boy, he's not running well at all.
Ooh, no, he is not. 17 career triples for David Ortiz, believe it or not. Walking back, tap to 3rd. Dominguez throwing on the run. And in the 9th inning, the Orioles get an insurance run on 2 hits. They leave a man, and they're up 4-1.
firefighters. So kind of, you know, hit close to home when I heard about what happened. And, you know, it's a tragedy, and you know, we'll do anything we can to honor their memory and you know, help support, you know, those who lost loved ones.
Jason Castro talking about the 4 who perished in that fire. And there will be a memorial service for them tomorrow. Many of the professional athletes in Houston will be attending that at Reliance Stadium. Baltimore 4, Houston 1. Bottom of the 9th inning brings the closer Jim Johnson to the mound. And Johnson is 2-5 with a 4.67 ERA with 18 saves in 22 attempts.
Last year led the major leagues with 51 saves, 2.49 ERA, and went 2-1 in the process as well. Jim Johnson has had a little bit of a rough go here recently, but he's a tough customer when on his game.
There's a 3-run lead with 1 inning to go. That means it is a safe situation for him. Jason Castro's 0 for 2 with a walk. And then strike 1.
7th in Cy Young Award voting last year in the American League. It kind of gives you a perspective on what kind of a year he had.
He went through a rough stretch from May 14th through the 26th. They blew 4 of 5 save chances. Well, his ERA took a whipping. He gave up 12 earned runs in 3 innings during that 2-week stretch, but he's bounced back since then. One and 2 for Jim Johnson, who's 29 years old, from Johnson City, New York.
Well, that's an intriguing combo you got going on. Jason Castro from Castro Valley, California. So,
I wonder if they both own the naming rights on those cities.
They might. Johnson goes to a 2-ball, 2-strike count. J.D. Martinez on deck. Carlos Pena due up 3rd in the inning.
Yeah, Johnson gave up 5 runs in a 1/3 of an inning at the hands of the Tampa Bay Rays and 4 against the Blue Jays in 2/3.
3-2 now. Earlier, he had set the club record with 35 consecutive save conversions. It's a shot, backhanded. Here's Flaherty getting up and throwing with another excellent play, and we've had a bunch in this game.
It's another tough break for Jason Castro. Putting the ball on the line. Well, had a chance of getting through, but that first hop jumped up and allowed Flaherty to make a good play on this ball.
And there's something how when you get good pitching, you tend to see some outstanding defense, and the tough thing for the Astros is that the gems that have been committed here late in the ball game have gone against Houston.
Ball 1 to J.D. He's 0 for 3. Carlos Pena on deck. The Orioles drafted Jim Johnson in 01 with their 5th round pick. 2 balls, no strikes. Well, Thursday's going to be very interesting around here. There's a day game in 110. After the game, you guys will be headed for Kansas City, but a lot of the media people will stay here to take in the draft, and a lot of fans now have been invited to stay and watch it on the big screen here. So there will be plenty of activity, sort of a double-header of a kind in this ballpark on Thursday.
And you're providing a little expertise, I understand.
Well, no, I'm just going to watch.
Okay.
A line shot into right field. And the Astros get something started here in the 9th with 1 out on the Martinez single. Hit number 5 for Houston.
A bullet to right field of JD's bat. Just a fastball up in the zone, not trying to do too much. Except go with it.
He's been really good driving the ball to right field.
Yeah.
That ball was driven. It was loud and firm.
That was no flare at all.
That was like a Jeff Blum golf shot. Loud and firm.
Yeah, those trees on the right sometimes in jeopardy. And
that low stinger to get out of trouble.
I'm punishing the left side.
Too bad the fairway was in left field.
Carlos Pena is 0 for 2. He is 2 for 9 in his career against Johnson. That is strike one. Well, so you guys are en route to Kansas City. I can be kind of your correspondent here for the draft.
It'd be good.
You're going to be tweeting out every move?
Yeah, I could tweet.
Yeah, good call right there. Who do you expect the Astros to take?
I think we're going to take a lad from Oklahoma, Mr. Gray.
You hearing things or just kind of feeling the vibe?
No,
Ash wants to dig deeper.
Not here. It's pure guesswork, Ash.
Yeah.
Pure guesswork.
So that would be on the vibe side of things.
Yeah.
You don't think the Adderall is going to be an issue?
I'm hearing that it will not be an issue.
Yeah, I agree. Be a little more concerned if it was one of the more on the illicit drug side as opposed to something that can be prescribed from a doctor.
Yes. Lesson to be learned from it, but
nip that thing in the bud. Yeah.
Bouncer, foul. And 0-2. And you know, Dennis Cabell was telling me about Jonathan Craig. Said he probably has more upside than Mark Appel. He's not as polished as Mark Appel right now. So then it all comes down to your scouting, right? And what the scouts say they each might be doing 2 years from now.
You know, and I tend to like the college guys over the high school guys, but I have to say the kid I saw featured by ESPN the other day, the high school kid that's kind of third on the list of pitchers, really has a beautiful looking delivery.
Cole Stewart?
Cole Stewart, that's right.
Peña's down on strikes. He should go high. That's 2 outs now. And it's a 10 strikeout game for the Orioles.
But I do again believe that with those 4 years of college ball that you got a chance to really see a much closer to finished product than you do with the high school kid.
Yes, sir.
Well, and I'm curious with the situation the Astros are in, needing talent at this level quicker.
Yeah.
If those college guys are more appealing.
I would think so, but I don't think you're going to hear that from them.
Of course, that said, Carlos Correa, high school kid last year, and he may not be far away.
Good point.
Yeah, he's proven himself pretty legit.
Some don't think Cole Stewart is that far away.
Well, watching that throwing delivery of his, I was immediately struck watching the way he delivered the ball.
Well, he's projected by some to go number 4 overall. One and 2, or then he might be playing quarterback for A&M in a couple of years. Who knows?
That probably speaks volumes. That's a program that's going nothing but up.
Yeah, that's a tough choice. And Jim Johnson closes the door on the Astros' 6-game winning streak. So Johnson and the Orioles claim this one 4-1. That sends them to 33 and 25, while the Astros fall. In a well-pitched game, it goes Baltimore's way, 4-1 tonight.